Chapter 3596. The chief patriarch of the rhinoceros ape race had fallen, and the chief patriarch became the new one. Even though the patriarchs of the rhinoceros ape race were grieving, the crisis was not over yet. They had to swallow their sorrow. They put the body of the rhinoceros ape race's master into a jade coffin and sealed it in a secret room. They built many seals and blocked off the news. Only 5 patriarchs of the entire race knew about the death of the rhinoceros ape race's master. The other patriarchs wanted to keep it secret. Otherwise, the news would spread. Chief Patriarch asked Second Patriarch to assume command. Then, he organized the hunt for the powerful warriors of the Murder Heaven Union in person. Some of the powerful warriors of the Murder Heaven Union were still on the run. Chief Patriarch wanted all of them to stay. This was not only revenge against the 5 major races formed by the Murder Heaven Union, but also a deterrent to the other races of the universe region. Those that dare to invade the rhinoceros ape race must be prepared to be wiped out. At the same time, Chief Patriarch asked Third Patriarch to take charge of dealing with Lu Li. There was no doubt that Lu Li was powerful and horrifying. If Lu Li was allowed to escape from the Ice River Valley, then there would be endless troubles. Chief Patriarch meant that Lu Li must be killed at all costs. They could spend a lot of money to buy poisons and poisonous creatures. Anyhow, they must turn the Ice River Valley into a land of death and let Lu Li die in there. Third Patriarch understood the importance of this matter. He gathered people to gather information about poisonous creatures and strange things. At the same time, he mobilized 2 of the best warriors of the race in the field of divine glyphs to build another formation. Several powerful divine glyphs sealed off the Ice River Valley completely. Poisonous creatures were easy to find. In just half a month, Third Patriarch had found many poisonous creatures. There were many places in the universes under their control that contained poisonous creatures. For example, there was a pond in a universe with a radius of 30 miles. Not a blade of grass grew in the pond. Any living being that got close would die. Even powerful Saint Emperors would be poisoned if they stayed near the pond for a long time. If they accidentally fell in, the Saint Emperors would turn into bones. Also, Third Patriarch learned about a kind of undead insect. It was said that it was invisible and colorless. Once 10,000 undead insects enter a body, even a warrior that was infinitely close to the consummate realm would die. This kind of goo worm was raised in captivity by a vassal tribe, but only a few 100,000 of them had been bred, and they were still looking for ways to mass reproduce them. Third Elder immediately set out, fetching a treasure and bringing it to the pool. He had tested the poison, and it was indeed extremely tyrannical. He personally placed his hand into the pool, and his hand actually instantly turned into white bones. It was extremely terrifying. He used his treasure to take away all the venom in the pool. Then, he went to the race that owned the goo worms. He paid a huge price and gave them a large piece of land to buy most of the goo worms. By the time he arrived at the Ice River Valley, the divine inscriptions here were more or less complete. In order to prevent the venom from freezing, the Third Elder had the 2 ancestors set up a divine inscription to seal the entrance of the cave to prevent the cold air from leaking out. Next, he released the venom and filled the entire Ice River Valley with it. Then, he threw the goo worms into the venom. The goo worms were freakish. They were not poisoned to death in the venom. Instead, they swam around happily like fish in water. What astonished Third Patriarch was that in just a couple of days, the number of goo worms had doubled. That vassal tribe had been looking for a long time, but could not find a way to breed the goo worms quickly. Now, by sheer luck, they had succeeded. Several powerful divine inscriptions. The venom and the goo worms were equivalent to several layers of protection. Third Patriarch was relieved. He left 2 ancestors to guard here. As long as there was no proof that Lu Li was dead, the 2 ancestors would stay here. It turned out that if Lu Li wanted to come out, he must crack the formation first. As soon as he did so, the 2 ancestors would notice and they could come over at once. Lu Li did not know if their family patriarch was dead or alive. He would not crack the formation so easily. If Lu Li could be trapped here for hundreds or thousands of years, then the rhinoceros ape race's crisis would be over. Maybe there would be one or two warriors at the consummate realm of the rhinoceros ape race. When Luli came out, they would have nothing to be afraid of. Great Elder's side was very successful. In the end, only 30 or so experts from Murder Heaven Alliance managed to escape, and more than half of the soldiers were killed. This matter caused a huge uproar in the Tianyu Star region, especially the death of the Meng tribe leader, which shook the entire Tianyu Star region. It was very difficult for a great perfection deity to die. News of a great perfection deity dying would only appear once in many years, and it was even more difficult for a great perfection deity to be killed. The last time it happened seemed to be more than 6,000 years ago. Who would have thought that another perfection paragon would be killed? The rhinoceros ape race king, who had been silent for thousands of years, once again drew his sword and caused the entire sky universe star field to fall silent out of fear. The rhinoceros ape tribe was indeed safe. At least for the time being, no large tribe would dare to target them. The Meng clan and the Glass clan had joined hands, but the outcome was so tragic. How could the other clans or forces dare to take the risk? Besides, they had no enmity with the rhinoceros ape tribe, and they were so far away from each other. Why would they make trouble out of nothing? The Meng tribe was in a miserable state. Although the intelligence reports indicated that there were no tribes or forces that wanted to attack the Meng tribe did not dare to do so. However, the Meng clan felt that there were enemies on all sides. There was an undercurrent, and countless hungry wolves would pounce on them from all directions, tearing them apart. A great perfection deity of a super large race had suddenly died, and many of their elders had also died. They were like dragons without a leader, and the morale of the army had dropped drastically. It was like a beautiful woman walking alone in the wilderness, surrounded by a group of old hooligans. The Grand Elder did not bring his formidable martial artists to kill his way into the Meng clan and the Glass clan's territories. Instead, he chased all the invaders out and called a truce. The Murder Heaven Union had 3 large races that used to be their vassal races. Apart from a small number of their clansmen who managed to escape, the rest were all killed. All the domains that had been attacked had been recovered. The situation on the rhinoceros ape race's side was very good. Countless martial artists were calling for the rhinoceros ape race king to lead an army to attack the Meng clan and the Glass clan's domains, to take revenge on the 2 races, especially the Meng clan. Now that their race king had died, they were like dragons without a leader. It was the best time to attack them. Even though the chief patriarch had become the new race king, he was still the chief patriarch to the public. He issued an announcement. The Meng clan and the Glass clan must give them an explanation, or else they would go on an expedition until the 2 races were completely wiped out. Naturally, the chief patriarch was not really going to attack the 2 races. He was just bluffing. In this way, the Meng clan and the Glass clan would not expose their weakness. He believed that the 2 races would give in and apologize to the Meng clan and offer a large number of treasures to appease the rhinoceros ape race. As soon as the chief patriarch sent out the messengers, the Meng clan knelt down at once. They didn't say that they would give the rhinoceros ape race whatever they wanted, but their message was clear. As long as the rhinoceros ape race didn't start a fight, everything was negotiable. The Meng clan and the Meng clan were willing to atone for the crimes they had committed. The Glass clan didn't reply right away, but their tone was kind. They were trying to say that it was a misunderstanding and that they were neighbors. There was no need to fight over such a trivial matter. Chief Patriarch didn't care about the matter between the 2 races. The 2 races could barely take care of themselves. They were no longer a threat to the rhinoceros ape race. As long as the news of their race king's death was not exposed, the race king of the Glass clan wouldn't have the courage to come. What Chief Patriarch was worried about was Luli. It had been a long time since Luli did anything. What was he doing? How could he hide in the Sumeru space for such a long time? P.S. Chapter 4. 3 Masters. Chapter 35-97. Luli was not in the shumi space. He was cultivating in the realm of magic. He had lost track of time because he had been cultivating. He had planned to leave in half a year. It had been almost a year. Recently, he had been studying the laws in the Gonghuangding, and he had made some progress. At this rate, he would achieve great success. It was easy to lose track of time in cultivation. Luli had decided to stay in the realm of magic for a while. Another month passed. Finally, Luli stopped cultivating. He had reached a bottleneck in studying the laws in the Gonghuangding. He had to stop. The first thing he did was to check the realm of magic. There were some changes. He took a look around and fell asleep. It had been a long time since he could relax. He planned to rest for a couple of days. After sleeping for 3 days, Luli woke up. He calculated the days and realized that he had been in there for almost a year. Theoretically speaking, the master of the rhinoceros race would not be waiting outside. The Lu race and the Meng race should be attacking. The master of the rhinoceros race must have gone back. Luli thought about it and used the trace of great Dao to check outside. Even if the master of the rhinoceros race was waiting nearby, he could not go into the realm of magic to kill Luli. After a while, Luli was surprised. He realized that the cave entrance was sealed off by runes. The Ice River Valley was filled with venom. There were many more runes outside the Ice River Valley. There were 3 or 4 seals. Somehow, Luli was relieved to see this. Clearly, the Ice River Valley was here to prevent him from running away. In other words, the master of the rhinoceros race was not here. Otherwise, why would there be such a need? Of course, it was possible that the master of the rhinoceros race was trying to lure Luli out. Venom did not matter. Luli was not afraid of it. Instead, he could absorb it and use it as a weapon to kill people. It did not matter how many runes there were. Blood Fairy could crack them all. More importantly, as soon as Blood Fairy cracked the formation, the 2 powerful warriors guarding outside would know. By then, the master of the rhinoceros race would come. Or, the 2 powerful warriors would find a way to kill Blood Fairy. In that case, it would be difficult for Luli to crack the formation on his own. How can I get out? Luli was troubled. As long as he could escape, he would not make the same mistake again. He would not give the master of the rhinoceros ape race a chance to trap him. He continued to search the cave to see if the rhinoceros ape tribe king was hiding inside. Luli did not find anything after a couple of hours. He said to Blood Fairy, "Go and set up a formation to cover the caves nearby. See if there are any living beings in hiding." Shio! Luli dashed out. Blood Fairy flew out, and Luli went back to the Dharma realm. He had been sensing his surroundings the whole time, but he didn't find anything out of the ordinary, so he came out rashly. Blood Fairy quickly set up the spell formation. It took her 1 day to set up a super spell formation. Buzz, the formation glowed. A strange energy spread out in the cave. After a moment, Blood Fairy said directly to Luli's mind, "Master, as far as I can tell, there are no living beings around here." Luli nodded. The next second, Blood Fairy said, "Master, psychic power is coming. It is locked onto me. I think it is the 2 powerful warriors outside the Ice River Valley." The 2 warriors who were infinitely close to the consummate realm opened their eyes at this moment. They were still standing on the cliff above the ice river, gazing into the direction of the cave. They were excited. They had been waiting here for so long. Was Luli finally coming out? Luli used the trace of Dao to check. Unfortunately, the distance was too far for him to see the 2 warriors that were very close to the consummate realm. Luli did not go out rashly. He thought for a while and told Blood Fairy to continue to set up the runes, defensive ones. After spending half a day, Blood Fairy finished setting up the spell. Light curtains appeared, isolating the entire cave. There were 5 light curtains in total. They looked like 5 doors standing in the cave. Luli dashed out. He released the traceless way so that the 2 rhinoceros ape warriors could not see him. Luli stood there for a while after he came out. The rhinoceros ape tribe king did not show up. Luli was relieved. The rhinoceros ape tribe king must have left. If the rhinoceros ape tribe king was here, he would have attacked Luli. Even though he was sure that the rhinoceros ape tribe king was not here, Luli did not act rashly. It would take time to solve the runes. There were so many of them, and some of them were powerful. It would take him half a month to a month to solve them. By then, the rhinoceros ape tribe king would have enough time to set up a trap and kill Luli. Luli thought about it for a while. Eventually, he turned to the depth of the cave. If he could stand the coldness, would he have a chance to go deeper? What if there was a passageway in the depth? Then, he would have a chance to escape. This was a way out or a dead end. The coldness in the Ice River Valley was too cold. Even a rhinoceros ape tribe king said that Luli could not stand it. Let's see. Luli told Blood Fairy to go into the interspatial artifact. He walked in slowly. At the same time, he secretly used the realm of magic to see if he could absorb the coldness. Theoretically speaking, coldness was a form of energy, but the realm of magic could absorb all kinds of energy. Is it working? A moment later, Luli was overjoyed. The coldness was absorbed into his body, and then he went into the realm of magic. Even though the muscles in his abdomen were frozen, he could not feel the coldness anymore. He moved slowly, faster and faster. What? The two rhinoceros ape warriors had been checking. They could not find Luli, but they did notice something strange. They noticed the runes Blood Fairy had built and the change in the coldness in the Ice River Valley. All of the coldness was moving toward one direction, and then they all disappeared. It was as if all the coldness in the cave was gathering toward the center and then vanishing without a trace. Luli moved on quickly. The coldness in the cave was becoming more and more horrifying, but it did not affect him. His blood was flowing, and he could use his source energy. His soul was fine. All the coldness had been absorbed by the realm of magic and condensed into a mass. 30 miles, 250 miles, 300 miles. The two rhinoceros ape warriors could no longer sense him. Luli had gone too deep into the cave. They could only faintly sense the movement of the coldness. The two rhinoceros ape warriors looked at each other, speechless. Did Luli go to the deepest part of the Ice River Valley? The cave extended underground. The deeper he went, the colder it was. There was not a single ray of light in the cave. Luli was nervous. If the realm of magic could not absorb the coldness, he would turn into an ice sculpture in an instant. His life would be frozen and he would die right away. He felt he was walking on a cliff with an abyss on both sides. One wrong step, and he could be smashed into pieces. How long was the tunnel? What would it lead to? Luli had no idea. What was in the deepest part of the cave when the coldness was so horrifying? Nothing was imaginable. Move. Now that he had come this far, Luli decided not to worry too much. He would see it to the end. Master 3. Chapter 3598. 2,000 miles, 3,000 miles. Finally, Luli reached the bottom. He found the source of the cold air. It was a cold pond with white liquid in it. The pond was not large. There was nothing else at the bottom of the cave apart from the pond. Well, there are some elixirs. Luli saw some elixirs growing near the pond. The elixirs that could grow in a place like this must be the best, even in the immortal region. But Luli was not happy at all. Instead, he was disappointed. He had risked so much to come here to find an exit. No matter how good the elixirs were, what would be the point if he was trapped here until he died? He looked around. He could not use psychic power in the pond, and there was nothing around. The walls of the cave were made of rocks that had been frozen for so many years. Luli couldn't crack them even if he attacked with all his strength. He didn't find an exit. Apart from the elixirs, there was only the pond. There were no powerful beasts here, either. Luli walked over and put away the elixirs. Then he sat by the pond with his legs crossed and began to use the mark of Great Path. Soon, he had an idea. He found a cave at the bottom of the pond, which seemed to be a connecting tunnel. Is this a connecting tunnel? If so, what does it lead to? Is the frigid pond here because of this passageway? Many thoughts popped up in Luli's mind. He found a tunnel, but he didn't dare to act rashly. He could absorb the cold air, but who knew if something would go wrong when he entered the pond? What if he was frozen directly? Then he would have to stay here for the rest of his life. Luli kept on trying. After the time for one incense stick to burn, he was still not sure. The pond was only 2 miles deep and with a radius of thousands of feet. Luli could not use psychic power, but he could see everything clearly after he used the mark of Great Path. There was an opening at the bottom of the frigid pond. The frigid pond and even the ice river valley were formed because of this opening. Luli could feel the cold air coming out from the opening. He had thought that the pond was the source of the cold air. It seemed that it was not so. The tunnel was the real source. Should he go in or not? This was a problem. If they entered, they might have a chance to find a way out. However, there was a higher chance that they would die inside. They might even die inside the cold pond. Luli was deep in thought. After the time for one incense stick to burn, he stood up, making up his mind. He decided to take a gamble. More importantly, he had faith in the realm of magic. Since the cold chi could be absorbed, the frigid pond was also formed by the cold chi. Regardless of whether it was liquid, gas, or even solid, it was essentially energy. The Dharma realm could absorb the cold chi, so the frigid pond shouldn't be able to do anything to it. The traceless blade appeared in his hand, and he activated his origin energy. Then, he reached out with his other hand and slowly reached into the lake. He was prepared to chop off the arm if it resisted the cold chi. If the arm was cut off, it could be regrown, but if the whole body was frozen, it would be over. His arm slowly approached and finally entered the cold pond. A terrifying cold current immediately surged into his arm. However, the Dharma realm was operating furiously at that moment, and the cold was instantly absorbed into the Dharma realm. It did not stain his arm at all. Thus, although his arm was bone-piercingly cold, it was not frozen, nor did it receive too much damage. Not bad. Luli's confidence was boosted. He stepped into the frigid pond, and his entire abdomen was submerged. A large amount of cold entered Luli's body and was absorbed quickly. Luli stopped moving. It was difficult for him to move even if he wanted to. His legs were covered by the cold and numb. Luli didn't want to move either. He absorbed all the cold and would enter the tunnel after the frigid pond disappeared. The cold was good stuff. After he absorbed it and refined it, the power would be horrifying. Warriors that were infinitely close to a perfect warrior would be frozen to death by the cold. Wait, Luli suddenly thought of something. Not even the master of the rhinoceros ape race dared to come in. Did it mean that not even the master of the rhinoceros ape race could stand the cold in the depth of the cave? In other words, if Luli used the cold to sneak up, could he freeze a perfect warrior? Did that mean he had the power to kill a perfect warrior? I am overthinking it. Soon, Luli shook his head with a bitter smile. He was indulging in wild fantasies. How could he kill a perfect warrior? Only an idiot would stand there and let Luli freeze him with the cold. Perfect warriors could control forces in heaven and earth and could suppress Luli with a thought. Luli wanted to sneak up on a perfect warrior? Luli had just decided to kill, and he would be stopped by a perfect warrior. The cold was useful, and Luli would not miss it. He was not in a hurry anyway. He had used a lot of flames and divine liquid of destruction, and he was worried about not having more powerful means. Now that he had a new one, he would not miss it. He planned to absorb all the cold. The frigid pond was not large, but there was a lot of cold energy. The pond was formed by the liquefaction of cold air. One drop of cold liquid could produce thousands of strands of cold air. In Luli's Dharma realm, there was only a mass of cold air. Now, it had turned into a cloud. When all the cold air was absorbed, the cloud would become a sea of clouds. The frigid pond was not large, but it contained a lot of energy. Even though the Dharma realm was working hard to absorb the energy, it still took Luli 17 days to absorb all the water. The frigid pond was gone. Luli stood at the entrance at the bottom. The entrance was like a tunnel from hell to the human world. Cold air kept coming out from below. Luli flew down slowly. This passageway extended downwards in a straight line. It had a circumference of about 3 meters, and the walls were covered in ice. It was obvious that they were hard and indestructible. 5,000 miles? 300,000 miles? 500,000 miles? Luli did not know how long he had been flying down. Finally, he saw a glare. His surroundings lit up. Finally, he had reached the end of the tunnel. He did not move around after he went down. Instead, he made sure that the Dharma realm was absorbing the cold air. If he stopped, he might be frozen to death. After making sure that everything was fine, Luli looked around. He took a casual look and was so shocked that he couldn't say a word. The place where he appeared was a ruin. This ruin was at the peak of a huge mountain, and this mountain was surrounded by a bottomless abyss. There was nothing on the mountain except for the ruins of a palace. Half of the palace had collapsed, but the other half was not destroyed. Luli was astonished to see that the palace was not destroyed. It was magnificent and magnificent. The palace was tens of thousands of feet high. Standing in the ruins in front of the palace, Luli felt like he was an ant standing in front of a cabin. Ancient, vicissitudes, everlasting, vast. Luli sensed many mysterious chi and energy in the ruined palace. He felt he was a child among mortals walking to a hall where gods lived. The feeling of insignificance and powerlessness was particularly strong. Where is this? Luli couldn't help but murmur. He had been to a few of the 8-star regions, and he had also been to the immortal region. However, this was the first time he had seen such a majestic and domineering palace. Even the palace where the Eastern region king resided wasn't as majestic as this. Third Master. Chapter 35:99. Luli was experienced and knowledgeable, but this was the first time he had seen a palace like this. The palace was in ruins, but Luli felt he was looking at a miracle. Luli did not move around. He continued to observe. He noticed that the cold air was coming from inside the palace. He was standing in a ruined side chamber. Behind him was a dark cave. He must have come out from this cave. He could also see that the surrounding cold air was converging towards the entrance of the cave and was continuously flowing into it. The cold air is coming from the main hall. Luli turned to the half-collapsed main hall. He saw many divine glyphs in many places. Though many divine glyphs were destroyed, there were still some that remained. The patterns were complicated. Luli could not understand them after a few glances. Blood Fairy, go and check the divine patterns. Be careful of the cold air in the main hall. Let me know if you can't stand it. Luli let Blood Fairy out. He did not dare to act rashly. This place was dangerous. One careless move, and he could lose his life here. Therefore, it was better to check first. It was always good to be careful. A moment later, Blood Fairy sent back a message. Master, the divine patterns here are so strong. I have never heard of them. Unbelievable. Wow. Master, I have to stay here for a while. The divine patterns here are very useful to me. Too strong, too strong. Blood Fairy was so excited that she could not speak coherently. Luli was even more curious. What kind of place was this if the divine patterns here were so strong? Was this a place where those who had reached the consummate realm lived in seclusion? But if the divine patterns here were so strong, why was the palace destroyed? Who did it? Was it another consummate realm? Before Blood Fairy had a clear look, Luli would not take any reckless actions. He used the trace of Tao himself and used psychic power to check the surroundings. He noticed a problem. The space around the mountain was enveloped by a strange energy. That energy gave him a horrifying feeling, like a storm of energy. If he were not careful enough, he would be shredded into pieces. Blood Fairy searched for half a day before she transmitted her voice. Master, the situation here is a little complicated. Many places are dangerous, and the interior of the palace is even more dangerous. I don't understand the divine inscriptions inside, let alone decipher them. Also, you absolutely can't go out of the mountain. The divine inscriptions outside are also abnormally terrifying. Luli's heart skipped a beat. Blood Fairy would never lie. She said that she could not understand the divine inscriptions. In that case, it would take him decades or hundreds of years to decipher the divine inscriptions. He could not afford the wait. He asked, and Blood Fairy pointed out some safe places. She even showed Luli around. Luli walked around the palace and exclaimed to himself. The materials used in the palace were precious, something he had never seen before. Even though the palace had been destroyed, he could tell that the decorations here were exquisite, more than what Luli had ever seen. What realm is this? Luli looked around. All he could see was a vast expanse of fog. He could not tell what was going on. Blood Fairy had said that they could not leave the mountain or they would be killed. Luli could not act rashly. What should we do? Standing outside the main hall, Luli was confused. He was here to find a way out. Little did he know that he would end up in such a place. He could not go anywhere else. The main hall was filled with powerful divine inscriptions. He dared not to go in. The other side halls were almost destroyed. In other words, this place was not meaningful. It would not be helpful for him to leave. Blood Fairy, go and study the divine inscriptions. See if you can decipher them. You just need to find a way and let me in. Luli said, if you cannot learn it in a short time, write it down as much as you can and study it later. I understand, Master. Blood Fairy went back to the main hall. Luli sat outside and continued to study the divine inscriptions in the Gong Huang Ding. He could not move forward or backward. He had to wait. This was a mountain of treasures. He would not be happy to go back empty-handed. Right? A moment later, Luli remembered something. He asked Blood Fairy to set up the divine inscriptions at the entrance. What if the master of Rhinoceros race found the ice river and came in? If that happened, Luli would die without knowing why while he was cultivating. Luli could seal the entrance with some divine inscriptions. When a master of Rhinoceros race came, Luli could enter the realm of magic at once. When Blood Fairy was done, Luli began to cultivate. The swirl in his realm of magic kept spinning. All the cold air around was sucked into the realm of magic. Luli was not harmed at all. Holding the Gong Huang Ding in his hand, Luli began to study. Blood Fairy, on the other hand, happily entered the main hall. She wandered around the powerful divine inscriptions, trying to comprehend the divine inscriptions that she had never heard of before. While Luli was cultivating in peace, Lord Li and the others were anxious, and so were the leaders of the God of Death's branch. Luli had been missing for a year. Though his jade talisman of life was still intact, there had been no news of him. Now that the rhinoceros race had won, they were even more anxious. They had some information. For example, Lu Li's last disappearance was in the Ice River. The Ice River had been sealed off for a year. The God of Death even sent some of their best scouts to the Ice River, but they were all killed by the patriarch stationed here. Lord Li wanted to come in person, but the rhinoceros race seemed to be alerted. They sent over a dozen powerful warriors. As soon as Lord Li came in, he was almost caught. He had no choice but to flee. The headquarters of the God of Death was concerned about Lu Li's whereabouts. Lu Li was too important to the God of Death. Several leaders of the God of Death sent a message, asking them to find out as soon as possible. If help was needed, the 9 leaders would mobilize more powerful warriors to rescue him. The headquarters of the God of Death were not the only ones concerned about Lu Li. The higher-ups of the rhinoceros race were concerned as well. On the surface, there were 2 senior warriors guarding here, and 3 patriarchs were lurking in the dark. The rhinoceros race had stabilized the situation. The Meng race had become the center of the storm. The clan leader of the Glaze race was in closed-door cultivation. The clan leader of the rhinoceros race had not made a move for thousands of years. Once he made a move, he could kill a warrior at the absolute realm and injure another one. Some powerful warriors suspected that the clan leader of the rhinoceros race would not be able to live for long. That being said, nobody dared to take any action before they learned that the clan leader of the rhinoceros race was dead. What was more, the other races were keeping an eye on the Meng race. The territory of the Meng race was not smaller than that of the rhinoceros race. Therefore, no other races were in charge of the rhinoceros race. The chief patriarch of the rhinoceros race had told the race to rest and build up strength. He provided a large amount of resources to train the younger generations and enhance their abilities. The only thing that worried the chief patriarch of the rhinoceros race was Lu Li. Recently, Lu Li had been acting strangely, which worried the chief patriarch even more. The chief patriarch was afraid that Lu Li would kill his way out, make a big fuss, and ruin the good situation of the rhinoceros race. Kill Lu Li at all costs. This was the order given by the chief patriarch recently. Only with Lu Li's death could the rhinoceros race stabilize and have hundreds or thousands of years of development. P.S. 4 chapters tomorrow. 3 patriarchs. Chapter 3600. Time zipped by. Soon, 5 years had passed. Lord Li and the others were eager to explore, but the rhinoceros race had sent some patriarchs to the ancient rhinoceros realm. Once Lord Li and the others went in, they would be hunted down by the rhinoceros race. The rhinoceros race had sent many scouts to track them down. They had to run, or else they would all be killed. Li had been cultivating over the years. He could not go out anyway, so he had been cultivating quietly in there. He had been making rapid progress in the laws inside the Gonghuangding. He thought he might as well cultivate until he was done. Blood Fairy had been studying divine glyphs in the Gonghuangding. She did not disturb Lu Li when he was cultivating. Lu Li had made some progress with the laws inside the Gonghuangding. Over the years, his progress was even faster. He was only half a step away from complete mastery. The reason why he could learn the laws so quickly was because of the spiritual connection between him and the Gonghuangding. The Gonghuangding was a supreme weapon, a relic with intelligence. Through the Gonghuangding, Lu Li could have a clearer understanding of the laws inside. This strange world was quiet as well. It was eerily quiet. There was no sound. The coldness here was horrifying. It would come out from the main hall at all times. If it were not for the fact that Lu Li's state of Dharma was operating all the time to absorb the coldness, he would have been frozen into a popsicle. The coldness in Lu Li's state of Dharma had gathered. The clouds had turned into a sea of clouds. Some of the coldness had been condensed by the state of Dharma into some pure white coldness that was similar to divine liquid. As for the power, Lu Li did not know. He would have to experiment to find out. Time zipped by. Soon, 3 years had passed. Finally, Lu Li woke up. He had learned all the rules in the Gonghuangding. He was exhausted after several years of closed-door cultivation. He didn't even have the time to check around. Instead, he dashed into the Dharma realm. He fell asleep inside the Dharma realm. After sleeping for a few days, his body flashed out of the Dharma realm. The strange ruins looked the same. Nothing had changed. After a while, Lu Li said to Blood Fairy, "Blood Fairy, I think it has been many years. How is it?" Blood Fairy transmitted her voiceover. "Master, I've improved tremendously in the field of divine inscriptions. The divine inscriptions here are too strong, far beyond my understanding. Many of the divine inscriptions in the 2 halls near the main hall are broken. I've already deciphered a small part of them and found a few safe paths. Do you want to come in and take a look? There seems to be some wonderful places inside." "Oh, of course," Lu Li was interested. He said at once, "Quick, show me the way. Show me around." Blood Fairy dashed out and led Lu Li into the hall. In front of the main hall, there were many broken divine glyphs. Many of the divine glyphs were horrifying. Lu Li could not afford to take one wrong step. One wrong step could lead him into a bottomless abyss. He carefully walked around the plaza in front of him. There were many collapsed stone pillars in front of the plaza, as well as many sculptures. Most of them were broken and collapsed. One of the corners of the plaza was even shattered, and he could still see the densely packed divine runes inside. Lu Li went around the plaza and entered the main hall. The front of the main hall had collapsed. Half of the main hall was covered up. Lu Li could not see inside. Lu Li followed Blood Fairy to a corner. Inside, he could see many places were covered in mist. Many parts of the main hall were covered up. Lu Li could not see anything. He could not even use psychic power. Those are divine glyphs. Do not touch them. You can trigger formations of destruction. Blood Fairy explained. Then, she led Lu Li in. Since Blood Fairy knew the way, she knew it. Lu Li followed her. Then, they came to a side door. Lu Li was surprised. "Are we not going to the main hall?" He had entered the main hall. Unfortunately, most of the main hall was covered in mist. He could not see inside. He could not sense anything even with the trace of Tao. All he could sense was a blur. Lu Li had thought that Blood Fairy would bring him to the main hall. Unexpectedly, they went to a side hall. "Main hall." After a pause, Blood Fairy said, "The divine glyphs in the main hall are too strong. I cannot solve them even if I study here for hundreds of years. I'm only able to come here because many divine glyphs have been destroyed. Otherwise, you would not be able to come in." "Oh, I see." Lu Li was disappointed. The main hall was the largest, with a radius of 300 miles. Only half of the main hall had collapsed. The other half was still intact. There must be something valuable in the main hall. The cold air must have come from the main hall. It was a pity that there was no way to go in. Luli followed Blood Fairy into a corridor on the side. After a few more miles, they arrived at a side hall. Over half of the side hall had been destroyed. Only a small part of it was still intact. On one of the collapsed walls, Luli saw the words Ice Cloud Shop. The words were written in an ancient style. Luli could understand them. There was something special about the 3 words that could not be detected with psychic power. When Luli looked at the 3 words, he was touched. Blood Fairy stared at the 3 words for a while. She became confused. Seeing that Luli seemed to have understood something, Blood Fairy did not disturb him. Instead, she began to study the divine glyphs nearby. Luli stood there for a whole day. He opened his eyes, but he was still confused. He did not see through the meaning of the 3 characters. He did not sense any laws or doubt from them. He just felt there was something miraculous about it, as if it contained the truth of heaven and earth. Yet, he could not sense anything when he tried to pursue it. He didn't waste any more time and slowly walked inside. After avoiding a few clouds of mist, he entered the well-preserved part of the side hall. He also found something very interesting. Was this side hall a study? There was a square table made of white jade with writing brushes, ink, paper, and inkstone on the table. Perhaps, due to the passage of time, the paper had been weathered, the brushes were broken, and the ink was dried. But the inkstone was well preserved. Luli took a look at the table and then at the wall on the left. There was a piece of calligraphy left on the wall. Since the calligraphy was carved with a weapon, it was well preserved. The handwriting was graceful and lively. Clearly, it was the work of a lady. There was a poem written on it, but Luli's attention wasn't on how well it was written. Instead, he was paying attention to the signature, Ice Queen. Luli tried to recall the warriors at the absolute completion in history. He once read about some famous warriors in the Grim Reaper, for example, the warriors of the 8 galaxies and the Immortal region. But Ice Queen's name was not mentioned. Theoretically speaking, this Ice Queen must be a very famous and powerful warrior at the absolute completion, since she had such a strong palace and such a strong cold air. Not even the master of the rhinoceros ape race dared to come in rashly. Maybe I'm just ignorant? I can look into it when I have the chance. Luli nodded. He looked at the graceful and lively words. He could sense a mysterious Taoist rhythm in the words. The Taoist rhythm was 100 times stronger than the one on the plaque outside. Chapter 36:01. It was a graceful poem written by a lady. It was about loneliness and solitude. There was nothing special about the content. What was special was the strange Taoist rhyme contained in the words. Luli stared at the words one by one. He read them over and over again. His eyes were filled with confusion. He vaguely felt that he had disappeared from the palace and had gone to a vast universe. There was chaos there, and the world had yet to evolve or be born. He could feel the laws of heaven and earth in this chaos. They were clear and transparent. Swish, a bolt of lightning suddenly appeared in the chaos. It was as if the lightning had pierced through the night sky. It was dazzling. Then, the chaos was divided into 2. Something wonderful was born in the chaos. Swish! Lightning flashed again and again. Life was born in this piece of chaos. Rain also appeared in the sky. The rain became heavier and heavier, and it poured down like a bucket. The primordial chaos below also began to evolve rapidly. Mountains, basins, rivers, and oceans appeared in the ocean. Luli could feel the birth of life. Slowly, the first creatures of the sea emerged. The world was changing. The ocean turned into land. The creatures of the sea began to move onto the land. Flowers and trees appeared on the land. Gradually, beasts and creatures were born. Those creatures continued to evolve and evolve. Some high-level creatures with intelligence appeared, giving birth to countless strange races and creatures. These living beings started to kill each other for territory. Some races also gathered together and built all sorts of tribes, towns, and civilizations were born. Later on, some races began to study heaven and earth. They absorbed spiritual energy in heaven and earth. They learned some cultivation methods from the laws of heaven and earth. Those races became more powerful. The battles between the races became more intense. Gradually, some races occupied a large piece of land. They built countries or sects and ruled over a large area. As time passed, the blue sea turned into mulberry fields. Many places kept on changing. One by one, kingdoms and factions fell. This world kept on evolving and gradually stabilizing. All kinds of civilizations were born, and the living beings there grew stronger and stronger. Boom! All of a sudden, a huge hand appeared in the sky. It smashed the entire world. Mountains and rivers were crushed. Creatures were annihilated. The world was collapsing. In the end, everything died. The world was torn apart. Slowly, it became chaos again. Buzzing, at this point, Luli opened his eyes. Two words popped up in his mind, samsara. He wasn't fully awake yet. His mind was still replaying the scenes he had seen before, and he was still immersed in the giant palm. The scene just now described one thing. It was the process of a world's origin, birth, prosperity, and finally destruction. The Taoist rhymes contained within these words were the four processes of birth, development, peak, and destruction. These four processes were extremely clear and felt very real. Luli felt that the world he saw just now was real. He felt that the powerful races there were extremely powerful in the later stages. Even the most powerful ones seemed to be at the absolute completion level, and there were countless of them. However, before this gigantic palm, all creatures were powerless to resist. They were all incomparably weak and were easily destroyed. The entire vast world was directly smashed into pieces. Just how terrifying was this power? Just how shocking was this technique? Destroying a great world. With Lu Li's current abilities, he could smash a small universe. But to smash a super universe, not even a warrior at the consummate realm could do it, let alone a warrior of the consummate realm. Who was the owner of that huge palm? Is this the scene of a world above the fourth heaven collapsing? Luli suddenly thought of a possibility. Didn't all the worlds above the fourth heaven collapse? There were so many powerful warriors in this world, and there were hundreds of them at the absolute completion level. Not even the immortal region could have so many of them. It was highly possible that it was a world above the fourth heaven. Ice Empress was a powerful warrior from a world above the fourth heaven. She was lucky enough to escape, and then she integrated the scenes from her memory into the calligraphy. Is that why she was so lonely? Luli continued to speculate and found it more and more plausible. He was deeply shocked. If all this was true, then who was the owner of that huge palm? Was there a realm above the consummate realm? The consummate realm was the embodiment of cultivation to the extreme. What kind of realm was there above the consummate realm? The consummate realm could already control the force in heaven and earth and control a world. If there was a realm above that, then it would be an immortal that created the entire world. If it was a creator, then why would it destroy the world? It didn't make sense. How could the world be created by a creator? If it really was created by a creator, then where did the creator come from? Nothing in this world could appear out of thin air. Everything was connected by cause and effect. The birth, aging, sickness, and death of people were all in accordance with the laws of nature, which were in accordance with the laws of heaven and earth. When warriors cultivated, they borrowed the laws of heaven and earth to obtain more strength, stronger bodies, and longer lives than mortals. But even a consummate realm would die. This was the law of nature, the law of heaven and earth. Everything had to be under the control of the laws. There couldn't be a creature that could jump out of the five elements and not be bound by the laws of heaven and earth, right? Luli couldn't figure this out. Maybe only a warrior at the consummate realm would know this. If there was a chance, he could ask the gang leader or those major races that escaped from the fourth heaven and ask them what happened in the past, right? Luli suddenly remembered something. He heard that the world above the fourth heaven collapsed because of a woman. Could be this Ice Empress? The palace of the Ice Empress was so grand. Luli suspected that she might be a supreme warrior from a realm above the fourth heaven. The calligraphy only records some things and scenes. Luli was disappointed. He had thought that the calligraphy contained some miraculous Tao and that he could learn another Tao. However, it was just scenes. It didn't seem to be meaningful. "Master, you are finally awake," Blood Fairy said. Luli asked with a frown, "Why do you say I am awake?" Blood Fairy replied, "Because you've been standing here for 20 years, what?" Luli was shocked. He asked in disbelief, "Are you sure? 20 years? 20 years have passed in such a short time?" "It's absolutely true," Blood Fairy replied. "Master, feel for yourself. It has indeed been 20 years. Luli checked at once. He checked the realm of magic, only to be confused. The coldness in the realm of magic was multiplied, and so was the source of energy. It had been a long time. Luli had a bitter taste in his mouth. The images in the calligraphy had a magical power that could make him feel like time was flying by and make him forget everything. He wanted to read it a few more times, but he didn't have the courage to do so now. 20 years had passed in one go. Wouldn't 100 years be gone after a few times? How anxious were the people of the Lu clan outside? What if something happened to the god of death? By then, it would be too late for regrets. Chapter 36:02. Something is not right. Luli scratched his head in confusion. Usually, when he cultivated for a few years, he would feel tired and drowsy. Even though his soul was strong, he still needed rest. Now, he had been standing for 20 years, and he did not feel tired at all. In fact, he felt he was in a good state of mind. What? My soul has grown several times stronger? Luli checked his soul and was surprised. Only now did he realize that his soul had grown so much. No wonder he did not feel tired. He glanced at the words again and was secretly shocked. Ice Empress was powerful. She had been dead for so many years, but the calligraphy she left behind could be so miraculous. Luli did not have the courage to look at the calligraphy. He wandered around to see if there were other treasures. He did not find anything. He waved his hand to Blood Fairy and said, "Let's go to another side chamber. Have you learned anything in the past 20 years?" "Yes," Blood Fairy said with certainty. "I've memorized countless diagrams, and I've also made great progress in the field of divine inscriptions. When I fully comprehend the diagrams, my mastery of divine inscriptions will increase by at least 10 times. Dozens of times? That impressive?" Luli was surprised. Blood Fairy was already skilled in divine glyphs. If her skills were dozens of times better, it would be horrifying. As far as Luli knew, no one could surpass Blood Fairy when it came to divine glyphs. Blood Fairy said with delight, "That is right. I think the divine glyphs can trap a warrior at the perfect level." "That impressive?" Luli was speechless. Blood Fairy would not lie. In other words, this Empress of Ice's attainment in divine inscriptions must be impressive as well, to a terrifying extent. He continued to follow Blood Fairy. After passing through a corridor, he arrived at another side hall. This side palace was a bit interesting. There was a very big pool here, and there was a white liquid in the pool. There was also a picture on the wall and a transparent jade stone. Luli was delighted to see the jade. He could tell that it was a piece of treasure. Ice Empress was so powerful. The treasure she left behind would not be ordinary. Luli did not act rashly. He observed the surroundings first. He looked at the pond and the liquid in the pond. After a moment of observation, he was taken aback. The liquid in the pond was clearly divine liquid, a high-level one at that. But from the layout of the pool, it seemed to be a bath. In other words, the Ice Empress was bathing in an extremely high-grade divine liquid. Isn't this 2F** King extravagant? Luli observed for a while to make sure that it was a bath. He forced a smile and took out an interspatial artifact to put away the liquid in the bath. Other people's bathwater, on the other hand, was an incredible divine liquid. Luli did not want to give it up. If he had the chance, he would soak in it himself. His gaze fell on the painting, and his eyes became dazed again. The scene in front of him changed, and it turned into a vast, starry sky. Moreover, this starry sky seemed to be divided into circles. There was an astral realm in the center, and this astral realm was clearly hundreds of times larger than the astral realm in the second circle. There were several astral realms in the second circle, dozens in the third circle, hundreds in the fourth circle, tens of thousands in the fifth circle. There were 7 astral realms in this circle. Beyond the 7th circle, the number of astral realms was endless. It was impossible to count them all. The astral realms were densely packed and boundless. There must be hundreds of billions of astral realms. Luli took a look and counted carefully. Suddenly, he was excited. He noticed something. The astral realms in the middle were dim, and only the astral realms at the periphery were glowing. If the periphery is the mortal world, then the 7th circle is the first heaven, the 6th is the second heaven, and the 5th is the third heaven, the 4th, the third, the second, and the astral realm in the center. Do they represent the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th heaven? Worlds above the 4th heaven have collapsed, and the astral realms in the middle are dim. Is this a map of the entire world? It is possible. Otherwise, it would not be such a coincidence. Also, it is said that the 4th heaven has hundreds of astral realms. It fits. It is possible. This map has a record of the entire galaxy. The more Luli thought about it, the more likely it seemed. But even if it was true, the map would not be of much use. It would only give him a better understanding of the world. Worlds above the 4th heaven had collapsed. Learning about them would be pointless. At the end of the day, they would still have fun in the 3rd heaven or the immortal region. Gradually, Li's eyes cleared up. He looked at the transparent crystal ball. He asked Blood Fairy to check to make sure that there were no runes around the crystal ball. Then, Luli grabbed the crystal ball in his hand. The crystal ball was beautiful and integrated. There was a layer of white mist around it. It was transparent inside. Luli could see his hand through the crystal ball. He flipped it over and didn't find anything special about the crystal ball. It seemed to be just a gem, but it was not beautiful. What was the Ice Empress doing here? Luli poured in his source energy, but the crystal ball did not react. He used psychic power to check and asked Blood Fairy, "Blood Fairy, this is not a treasure. Didn't you say that this is strange? This must be a piece of treasure." Blood Fairy gave a positive answer. "Master, do you know how powerful and complicated the runes in the main hall are?" "Of course." Luli nodded. He had seen the runes in the main hall with his own eyes. They were powerful and complicated. Luli asked, "What does the crystal ball have to do with the main hall?" "Nothing." Blood Fairy's explanation almost made Luli speechless. After a pause, Blood Fairy continued, "I just want to tell you that there are divine glyphs in here, but you did not see them. The divine glyphs in here are 100 times more complicated and stronger than those in the main hall. Do you still think this crystal ball is an average item?" Bang! Li's hand trembled. The crystal ball fell and rolled on the ground. Luli picked it up at once. He was shocked. He used psychic power to check the crystal ball. There was nothing in it. Blood Fairy said that the runes in the crystal ball were 100 times more complicated and powerful than those in the main hall. This was absurd. Luli closed his eyes at once and used the trace of Tao to check carefully. This time, he could sense that there were indeed countless divine inscriptions inside. However, these divine inscriptions were also transparent, so his spiritual force could not detect them. They were like the capillaries in the human body, invisible to the naked eye. "What?" Luli sensed for a moment and then put the crystal ball on the table. His eyes were filled with fear. The runes in the crystal ball were so powerful. If he accidentally triggered the runes, he would be killed in an instant. This is a treasure. Luli's heart was racing and his breath shortened. If he could take control of the crystal ball and turn it into an offensive or defensive treasure, then his abilities would be enhanced by 10 times. Chapter 36:03. "This is good," Luli exclaimed. In his hand, the crystal ball felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds. He was afraid that he would break it if he was not careful. In the past, he did not think much of treasures. Ever since he acquired the Traceless Saber and the Gong Huang Ding, he had changed his mind about treasures that could enhance his abilities. This thing is too strange. It was such a small crystal ball, but there were at least 1,000,000 divine patterns in it. It was extremely complicated. Luli did not know much about divine patterns. That being said, he was certain that the crystal ball was a piece of treasure. He just did not know what it was. Are the divine patterns naturally there? Luli thought of a possibility. Maybe they were not divine patterns. They were natural textures. The textures had formed a miraculous formation, just like a natural formation. This was not impossible. The world was a big place, and nothing was too strange. Wait a minute, Luli thought of something. He once checked the divine patterns in the Traceless Saber and the Gong Huang Ding. They were complicated as well, but not as complicated as this. The Traceless Saber and the Gong Huang Ding were already top-level relic weapons. Could this crystal ball be more advanced than the Traceless Saber and the Gong Huang Ding? Based on this, could it be that Ice Empress was one level higher than a complete warrior? Blood Fairy. Luli sent a message to Blood Fairy for confirmation. He told her his speculation. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Blood Fairy replied, "Master, I do not know the specifics, but I'm sure of one thing. The divine patterns in the crystal ball are 100 times more complicated than the Traceless Saber and the Gong Huang Ding. If this is an offensive or auxiliary artifact, that must be 100 times more powerful. According to my analysis, if Ice Empress is not at an unimaginable level in terms of divine patterns, then your speculation makes sense. Ice Empress is one level higher than a complete warrior." What? Luli's eyes were wide open, filled with astonishment. He remembered the scene he saw on the wall, the scene where the huge hand smashed a piece of space. Somehow, Luli suspected that Ice Empress was not a complete warrior. She might be more powerful than that. Sovereign? Two words popped up in Luli's mind. He had heard the legend so many times. It was said that the almighty immortals were omnipotent. They could control the fate of all living beings. They could annihilate you with a single thought. They could control heaven and earth, summon the wind and rain, send down thunderbolts, and dominate all living beings in the universe. In other words, all living beings in the world, no matter how strong they were, no matter how good they were at the consummate level, they were still mortals in the end. A mortal who had stolen the power of heaven and earth and possessed some strange abilities. Sovereigns, on the other hand, were true gods. They were omnipotent and immortal. Deducing in this way, it seemed to make sense. When Lu Li was in the mortal world, he thought the powerful warriors in the divinity were immortals. Later, he learned that those were just powerful warriors that had learned some laws of heaven and earth. They were just one level higher than mortals. At that time, he had thought that the gods of the god world were omnipotent and immortal, but that was not the case. Putting aside the martial artists of the divine realm, not even consummation stage martial artists were true gods. That was because consummation stage martial artists would die. When their lifespan was up, even consummation stage martial artists had to die. This was an inescapable fate. This was the law of nature that could not be changed. They would be bound by the laws of heaven and earth, and eventually they would turn into dust. Were the almighty immortals beyond the 5 elements and not bound by the laws of heaven and earth? What about immortality? That's not right. Luli shook his head. The Ice Empress Palace was ruined. Clearly, no one had lived here for years. Ice Empress must be dead. How could an almighty immortal die? Who could kill an almighty immortal? Were there many almighty immortals? If they were almighty immortals, then they must have dominated the outside world. How could they die? After thinking for an hour, Luli still could not come to a conclusion. He touched his forehead to get rid of those distracting thoughts. It was pointless to think about these things now. If he had the chance to communicate with someone like the king of the Eastern region, he could ask him. There were many things that he was not qualified to know. I wonder how Little White is doing. What about the Grim Reaper and the Lu family? Luli was worried. He had been trapped here for decades. He could not let anything happen to the outside world. He threw away the crystal ball and asked, "Blood Fairy, have you found any teleportation altars or something? There are many dangerous places here." Blood Fairy did not even have the courage to wander around. It had been a few decades. Blood Fairy should have explored many places by now. "There's one." Blood Fairy's words cheered Luli up. What she said next made him put on a bitter face. "But the patterns there are too complicated. Even I don't dare to go close. It is impossible for you to go there. Is there a chance to crack the formation?" Luli asked, unwilling to give up. Blood Fairy replied honestly, "It's not possible for now. It will take time. Master, don't worry. Even if I cannot crack the patterns here, let me study for a while. By then, I can crack the patterns for you in an instant. The master of the rhinoceros race will not have enough time to set up a trap. You can run away." Okay, Luli nodded. He had been in there for so many years. The master of the rhinoceros race could not keep an eye on him all the time. He and Blood Fairy could go out all of a sudden. Then, Blood Fairy would crack the formation and Luli would leave. As long as the master of the rhinoceros race was not nearby, the master would not have enough time to set up a trap to kill Luli. As long as Luli could leave the Ice River Valley, he would be free to do whatever he wanted. Okay, Luli nodded. Go and study the patterns. Hurry up. If you're not sure that you can crack the patterns on the teleportation altar, then write them down and study them later. Let's go. I am worried that something might happen to my family. Okay. Blood Fairy snuck away to check the patterns nearby. Luli sat in the side hall and began to play with the crystal ball. This must be a piece of treasure. It all depended on how he would take control of it. Luli took the crystal ball and closed his eyes. He used the trace of Tao to check carefully. After several days, he had no clue. He had to use his source energy to envelop the crystal ball and see if he could take control of it. Luli had been working on the crystal ball for 3 months, but nothing happened. During this time, Luli had tried many methods, but nothing worked. There is no trace of Tao in it. The traceless sword could be taken control of because of the Tao in it. Luli wanted to find the Tao in the crystal ball as well. It was a pity that he could not find any trace of Tao. He put down the crystal ball. He would not be able to take control of it anytime soon. Should I warm it over a fire? Since he had nothing else to do, Luli used some flames. As soon as the flames came out, the ice around him melted. But soon the flames died out. The cold air here was too heavy for flames to last long. Flames would not work. Luli thought of another way. This was a treasure from the Ice Queen. If he poured some cold air into the crystal ball, would there be an unexpected effect? He took action at once. He gathered some cold air from the magic realm and poured it into the crystal ball. Buzzing as the cold air went in, the crystal ball suddenly glowed. Luli trembled in fear. P.S. Chapter 4 added. Chapter 3604. The crystal ball glowed, and a beam of light was cast to the map on the wall. Luli was taken aback. Was the crystal ball a part of the painting? Luli frowned. He looked at the map and then at the crystal ball. Not much had changed. The crystal ball only lit up with a beam of light, and the map also lit up slightly. Other than that, there wasn't much change. What is the meaning of this? Luli was speechless. He had thought that the crystal ball would release some horrifying skills. Just a shield to strengthen his defense would be good enough, if not a powerful attack. But such a powerful artifact was just for a map. More importantly, the map didn't change at all. Luli thought about it for a while. He put his mind into the crystal ball and tried to sense any changes in it. Nothing changed after a while. Then he focused on the map. The map didn't change. It just glowed, and the astral realms were brighter. Astral realms. Luli focused on an astral realm. All of a sudden, he saw a white glare. Then he saw something mysterious. He could actually see that interface. He could see countless mountains, rivers, and lakes. His mind drifted downwards, and he could even see the city below. In fact, he could see every martial artist in the city clearly, and he could even see the fine hairs on their bodies. Is this real or an illusion? Luli was startled. He stopped using psychic power at once. The scene disappeared, and he was back in the side hall. He paced back and forth in the main hall. Finally, his divine perception scanned in again and locked onto another astral domain. Just like before, he could see everything that was going on in the astral domain. He could see how many cities there were in this astral domain and how many formidable martial artists there were. In fact, he could even easily observe what was going on in many rooms. This is amazing. Luli used psychic power to find a warrior at the later stage of the Saint King who was cultivating in a castle. Luli tried to check, but the warrior knew nothing. Luli even used psychic power to check the warrior's body, but the warrior knew nothing. I need to find a warrior that is infinitely close to the consummate realm or a warrior at the consummate realm. Luli used psychic power to search. Soon, he found a powerful warrior who was infinitely close to the consummate realm in a city. Luli used psychic power to check the warrior, but the warrior sensed nothing. Luli's heart was filled with excitement as he continued to scan the area for masters at the consummate level. Got it! Finally, he found a great perfection stage cultivator in the mountains behind this astral boundary main city. However, when his spiritual force swept past this great perfection stage cultivator who was cultivating suddenly opened his eyes and looked around coldly. We've been discovered. Luli was taken aback at first, but then he continued to look around without the slightest scruple. So what if he was discovered? He wasn't in this astral realm. Could this consummate warrior track him down here and kill him? His divine will swept here and there, and that consummate cultivator suddenly stood up and shouted angrily, "Who are you, fellow Taoist? Come out and meet me." Even Luli could hear it clearly, but he didn't reply. He continued to watch the consummate's performance. The great perfection paragon used the power of heaven and earth to search around, but he didn't find anything. He didn't actually find anything, but he felt as if there was a pair of eyes staring at him. This feeling made him feel extremely uncomfortable and shocked. There's nothing? Am I having an allergic reaction? This is strange, so strange. After a while, the great perfection stage cultivator continued to cultivate. After a while, he opened his eyes again, and they were filled with fear. He murmured, "This can't be. Even if the most powerful consummate warrior were to secretly come and check on me, I would still be able to sense it." Whoosh! The great perfection stage cultivator flew out of the castle and led his body into the air. Then, he began to search nearby. Even though the great perfection stage cultivator had disappeared into the air, Luli could still sense him through the changes in the power of heaven and earth. Luli's psychic power was still locked onto him. The great perfection stage cultivator searched the nearby area again and again. The shock and bewilderment in his eyes grew stronger. Luli, on the other hand, was getting more and more excited. This game was so fun that he could tease a great perfection stage cultivator, even though he wasn't sure if this was real or just an illusion. After a while, Luli retracted his psychic power. His psychic power left this astral realm and scanned the nearby astral realms. He could see every astral realm clearly. He could see every living being there. This is amazing. If what I saw is real, then I have become an almighty immortal and have the perspective of an almighty immortal. Can I see everything in the universe? Luli was shocked. Was this Empress of Ice really an almighty immortal? This artifact was so miraculous and unreal that he could not understand it. If it were not for the fact that he was the one who experienced all this, he would have thought it was nonsense. Is what I saw real or an illusion? Luli was confused. He began to think. After a moment, he had an idea. It was easy to verify if what he saw was an illusion. He just had to look for the astral realms he was familiar with, such as the Dipper Galaxy, the Chaotic Galaxy, or the Universe of Heaven. Then, he would be able to verify it. The 8 major galaxies and the immortal region were all in the third heaven. Luli locked onto the realms around the third heaven and started searching. Soon, he found a galaxy similar to the 8 galaxies. There were 8 very large ones, each with tens of thousands of astral realms. Luli first used psychic power to check one of the galaxies. He was unfamiliar with none of them. He retracted his psychic power and turned to the second one, which was strange. He went to the third one, the fourth one, and the fifth one. Luli's heart skipped a beat. He found a familiar one that he had been to before. It was a big one in the Dipper Galaxy, where he once made a killing. Luli was trembling with excitement. He used psychic power to check around. Soon, he found several familiar ones. His spiritual force immediately returned and scanned the interface at the side. After scanning it, he felt like crying all of a sudden, because he found the Chaotic Galaxy. He used psychic power to check where the God of Death was. He found the Heavens Crossing region and the Heavens Crossing city. He saw the 9 warriors of the God of Death, Emperor Mo, Emperor of Wings, and Emperor of Feather. He used psychic power to check the Lu mansion. He saw Lu Renhuang, his wives and concubines, and the worry and anxiety on their faces. The map is real. It is real. This treasure is unbelievable. I cannot put into words. Luli was so excited that he couldn't even speak coherently. He couldn't put into words how miraculous the treasure was. It was beyond logic and beyond human capability. He couldn't explain the mechanism of the treasure, so he had to think of it as a miracle. A piece of treasure that could see the entire world and monitor it. How miraculous and horrifying was this? The entire world would be in an uproar if people knew about this. Chapter 3605. It was just a map, yet it was able to monitor the entire great world. Everything that happened in every realm could be clearly seen. Even the hair on every martial artist's body could not be clearly seen. There was no way to explain the magic of the map. Luli had to use the means of an almighty god. Ice Empress was definitely not at the complete realm, but above that. She might be the legendary almighty god. Luli saw the image of the hand that destroyed a super-universe. Luli was even more certain of the existence of an almighty god. Only an almighty god could explain what he saw and the unexplainable. However, Ice Empress was dead. If she was an almighty god, then who killed her and the collapse of worlds above the fourth realm? Luli felt this world was full of mysteries, and there was a big secret hidden. It was a pity that his level was not high enough to know the big secret. Let me check outside. Luli thought for a while and used psychic power to check the nearby universes. Soon, he found the Empyrean Galaxy and the ancient Rhino Realm. His psychic power stopped at the Ice River Valley. He could tell there were 2 powerful warriors guarding outside the Ice River Valley, and 3 patriarchs of the Rhino ape race outside a castle nearby. He could tell there was poison in the Ice River Valley, and there were 2 more runes. Everything was similar to what he had seen before. The map is real. Luli was getting more excited. The map was a treasure. A scholar could know everything in the world without going out. He could know everything about the universe at home. He could know everything he wanted to know at once. When he was in the Chaotic Star region, he knew about the Immortal region. Oh, the Immortal region. Luli began to search for the Immortal region. It was in the middle of the 8 galaxies. It should be easy to find. He used psychic power and found the Immortal region after a while. He put his psychic power in, and the scene of the Immortal region appeared in his mind. East region, go and check on Little White. Luli scanned the East region with psychic power and found the Mystic Armor City. He couldn't find Little White. As his spiritual force swept across the East King City, the king of the Eastern region, who was in seclusion, suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with coldness. He was like the king of ferocious beasts that had been awakened from a deep sleep. Even Luli shivered when he used psychic power to check. Luli withdrew his psychic power at once. Little White must have gone to a secret realm to cultivate. Since the king of the Eastern region was safe and sound, then Little White must be fine. Luli didn't have to worry about it. By the way, I wonder if I can transmit my voice through this treasure? Luli was intrigued. If he could send a message, then he could tell Lu Renhuang and the others not to worry. He used psychic power to scan the Chaotic Star region, and eventually, he locked onto the Sky Crossing City. He wanted to go to Lu Renhuang directly, but on second thought, he did not want to scare him. Sister. He found Lu Ling, who was cultivating in her room. He used psychic power to check on her and tried to send a message. Sister. Lu Ling suddenly opened her eyes. She was overjoyed. Then she used psychic power to check outside. She stood up and said with joy, Luli is back. Sister, don't move. Luli was overjoyed as well. He replied, Sister, I am not back. I am still in the star region of Heaven Universe. Lu Ling was taken aback. Then she said in shock, Luli, are you kidding me? Come out now. Don't tease me. Really? Luli replied with a forced smile. I am still in the star region of Heaven Universe. I am cultivating in a blessed place. There's a miraculous formation here that allows me to send messages back. It's hard to explain this in such a short time, so please don't spread it. Just tell everyone that I'm safe and sound through a special communication channel, and I'll be back soon. Tell everyone not to worry. Okay. Lu Ling had absolute trust in Lu Li. She nodded. Still, she said in surprise, you can send a message from the region of universe and directly to me. How miraculous this communication formation is. It's indeed marvelous. Lu Li exclaimed, I am studying it. It will be of great use to me later. That is why I have been staying here. I think I will leave in a dozen years at most. Don't worry. Don't tell others. Just tell your family. Don't tell the warriors of death. Oh, is everything okay with death? Yes. Lu Ling nodded and told him about the situation. The development of death was going well. It was stable now. As long as nothing happened to Lu Li, the position of the master would not be a problem. Lu Li exchanged a few more words with Lu Ling and then retracted his psychic power. Lu Ling was relieved. If Lu Li could send messages back from the star region of Heaven Universe, what else could go wrong? She went out to find Lu Renwang, Xiang Linglong, and Yin Qingxi with a smile. She was relieved. As long as nothing happened to Lu Li, nothing else mattered. Lu Renwang, Jiang Qiling, and Yin Qingxi were relieved as well. Everything was fine as long as Lu Li was safe. As for whether Lu Li would come back or not, that was not important. They were used to Lu Li's days away. They knew very well that unless he had no other choice, Lu Li would not leave them. Lu Li enjoyed spending time with them. He didn't like to wander around and be alone. The Lu alliance was developing rapidly. Many of their families had grown as well, especially the four families, Yin family, Xiang family, Qi family, and Hua family. They had a solid foundation. They used to be big families in the Middle King realms. Although many experts have been killed, the elites of the younger generation had all survived. This group of warriors had made the fastest progress. Nurtured by a large amount of resources, they had progressed rapidly. They had become the backbone of the Middle King realms. The Lu Alliance had been transferring elites from the Middle King realms to train. That being said, it would take time for those elites to grow. Those families were the first to come to the Chaotic Star region with Lu Li. Naturally, they had benefited a lot. Many of their warriors had not only become the middle management of the Lu Alliance, but also the middle management of death. At this rate, they would be able to take root in death. As long as the death was alive, and Lu Li was alive, some of their disciples could become leaders of death and have a say. Of course, they were well aware that the reason why they were valued, the reason why they were in high positions, and the reason why they could become leaders in the future was all because of Lu Li. Lu Li was the soul of death now. Lu Li's faction was the most powerful. The other factions wouldn't dare to belittle the voice of their faction. Even though Lu Li was not here, his faction did not stop recruiting powerful warriors. On the contrary, because of Lu Li's absence, Lu Ling, the leader of the faction, recruited many warriors. Most of them were Saint Kings, young ones with great potential and space for development. The older generation would eventually pass away, or, when they were too old, they would no longer be in charge and would stay in retirement. The younger Saint Emperors would take over sooner or later. Those Saint Emperors with potential could become leaders of death in the future. Controlling this group of Saint Emperors would mean controlling death. Chapter 3606. The patterns in the Ice Queen's palace were powerful. Lu Li had been waiting for 10 years, and Blood Fairy still could not decipher the patterns on the altar. The patterns were too complicated. It was not that Blood Fairy was not good enough. It was just that she needed time. With Blood Fairy's confirmation, Lu Li told her not to try and decipher the patterns. He told her to study the patterns to improve her abilities. Since there was no way out, she had to go back to the Ice River Valley. As long as Blood Fairy could improve, she could crack the formation of the Ice River Valley in an instant. The master of the rhinoceros race would not have enough time to react. Lu Li did not believe that the master of the rhinoceros race would be waiting outside the Ice River Valley. Lu Li used the crystal ball and the map to check outside the Ice River Valley. He found nothing except that there were 2 senior warriors guarding in the Ice River Valley. There were 3 more guarding in the nearby castles. Hundreds of scouts were hiding nearby, and thousands of warriors were stationed outside. Lu Li had checked before. When he locked onto a perfect warrior, he could tell the location of the warrior based on the flow of energy in heaven and earth. Theoretically speaking, there was a chance that he could tell if there was a perfect warrior nearby. But he had been here for a long time. Even if the master of the rhinoceros race was hiding nearby, he could not stay invisible all the time. How tiring would that be? To stay invisible, one had to become one with heaven and earth. That was a skill that could not be used all the time. Right at this moment, Luli thought of something. Could he check the city of rhinoceros race to see if the master of the rhinoceros race was cultivating in the city? Theoretically speaking, if the master of the rhinoceros race was not here, then he must be in the ancient city of rhinoceros race or the city of rhinoceros race. Luli poured in some cold energy at once. The crystal ball glowed, and a ray of light was projected to the map. Luli checked the map and soon found the rhinoceros race. He had locked onto the city of rhinoceros race. He could sense everything in the city and all the rhinoceros race in the city. This manor must be where the master of the rhinoceros race lives. Luli checked for a while and noticed the most heavily guarded manor. He saw the chief patriarch and second patriarch of the rhinoceros ape race in a hall. They were discussing something. It seemed to be about the Meng race. The second elder said, "I think we can take advantage of the situation. There are more than 10 large clans attacking the Meng tribe. If we don't take action, it will give the outside world the wrong impression. After all, our race was almost exterminated back then. Now that the Meng race is under attack, there is no reason for us not to add fuel to the fire, right?" The Grand Elder pondered for a moment and said, "Since there are more than a dozen big clans attacking, we won't be a problem. Given the current situation of our race, I think it's best that we don't make any rash moves. In the previous battle, our race lost so many experts. If we go to war this time, we'll definitely lose many as well. I think it's best that you don't care too much about these things. Go into seclusion and break through to the consummate level. Time is of the essence. I have so many things to deal with that I cannot calm down. As long as Luli is alive, I cannot cultivate in peace." Luli has been missing for decades. Maybe he has died in the Ice Valley. Second Patriarch said, "I don't think it is necessary to pay attention to Luli anymore. There are so many divine inscriptions in the Ice River Valley and so many poisonous insects. We have our forefather guarding there. If Luli could come out, he would have done so by now. It has been decades. Family Patriarch, I think you're being too cautious." "I have to be cautious," the Chief Patriarch exclaimed. "You know how horrifying Luli is." Luli was confused. Why did Second Patriarch call the Chief Patriarch the Family Patriarch? Had the Chief Patriarch of the rhinoceros race passed the position to the Chief Patriarch? Luli was confused. He had to listen on. The Chief Patriarch was adamant about not attacking the Meng race. He just wanted to rest and build up more powerful warriors. He advised Second Patriarch to cultivate and strive to reach the consummate level. All right. Seeing that he could not persuade the Chief Patriarch, Second Patriarch forced a smile and said, "Then I will go to the Cyan Cloud region. I will cultivate there for 100 years and try to reach the consummate level. If you need anything, just let me know. Family Patriarch, please take care of the affairs of our race." "Okay." The Chief Patriarch nodded and said with pride, "Our priority now is to reach the consummate level. I will cultivate as well when we are almost done. One of us must reach the consummate level, and we cannot drag this on for too long." "Got it." The second elder nodded with a solemn expression and then walked outside. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly turned around and asked, "Should we find a day to bury the remains of the old tribe king in the ancestral mausoleum? In any case, it won't be leaked, and we can bury it secretly. It's not the same thing to keep it underground." On hearing this, Luli's pupils contracted and his soul trembled. Old Family Patriarch? Was he talking about the chief of the rhinoceros race? Body? Was the chief of the rhinoceros race dead? If so, what was there for Luli to be afraid of? He could just kill his way out. There was only one consummate level warrior of the rhinoceros race. It would not be easy for the Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch to reach that level. Luli tried to eavesdrop again. The chief patriarch waved his hand and said, "Never mind. No matter how secretive it is, there will be a leak. Only the family patriarch can be buried in the ancestral mausoleum. Now that there's another one, it will arouse suspicion. When the news of the family patriarch's death spreads out, it will be a serious matter." Ha 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 ha. On hearing this, Luli suddenly burst into laughter. His voice was heard directly in the hall, which startled Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch. Chief Patriarch jumped up from his seat. The two powerful warriors took out their weapons and treasures at once. They used psychic power to check for any lurking warriors. However, they found nothing. Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch looked at each other as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Chief Patriarch shouted, "Who is it that has sneaked into the rhinoceros race? Please come out and see me." Luli curled his lips. He didn't expect that he would laugh out loud because he was too happy. His voice was transmitted over and resounded in the main hall. He was getting carried away, but he didn't mind. What he said just now made him sure of one thing. The chief of the rhinoceros race was dead. What he was worried about the most was the chief of the rhinoceros race. This one at the consummate level almost killed him. Now that the king of the rhinoceros ape tribe was dead, the rhinoceros ape tribe was completely defenseless to him. He could kill them if he wanted to, slaughter them if he wanted to. He could ravage them wantonly. No matter what, he could destroy the rhinoceros ape tribe. If he could not destroy the rhinoceros race, the endless ruins of divinity would never be safe and the matter would never end. That was why Luli was so overjoyed when he heard the news. The Ice River Valley could no longer trap him. He felt like he was a dragon that was about to fly away. Ignoring the first elder and second elder, he transmitted his voice to Blood Fairy. "Blood Fairy, I'll give you 3 months. Do your best to inscribe the divine inscriptions you want. After 3 months, we'll force our way out. This time, I will force the rhinoceros race out of the region of universe and go back to their ancestral land to linger on with their feeble existence." Ha ha. Chapter 36:07. The sudden laughter scared Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch out of their wits. They were even more panicked when they found nothing after searching the entire Rhino Ape City. There were only 2 kinds of people that could sneak into the Rhino Ape City without anyone noticing and not being able to find them. One was a consummate warrior, and the other was Luli. Either way, it meant that the Rhino Apes race was in big trouble. Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch were talking about the remains of the master of the Rhino Apes when they heard the laughter. It meant that this person must be an enemy, either the master of the Glaze race or Luli. Either way, they were not allies. Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch spent the whole night discussing. Then, they decided to relocate the elites and resources of the race. It was always better to be on the safe side, no matter what the outcome might be. As the orders were passed down, the Rhino Ape race's countless clansmen were dumbfounded. Didn't they just achieve a great victory decades ago? Now, the Rhino Apes had no external enemies. Many warriors of the Rhino Apes were trying to break into the Meng race. Why were they relocating to their ancestral land? Chief Patriarch didn't give any explanation. In recent years, Chief Patriarch had been in charge of the affairs of the Rhino Apes. His orders were as authoritative as those of the master. The Rhino Apes followed Chief Patriarch's orders to the letter. That being said, there were too many young warriors of the Rhino Apes, and there were too many resources in different places. It would take several years to relocate all of them. Report: 3 months later, an urgent message arrived, causing the Great Elder's expression to become extremely nervous. In the Ice Valley, Luli was up to something. That goblin was cracking formations by force, and she was fast. In the time for 1 incense stick to burn, she had cracked 1 rune formation. In half a day at most, all the rune formations would be cracked. The Glaze race was requesting for help. Not Luli. Chief Patriarch frowned. Luli was still in the Ice Valley. Could it be the master of the Glaze race? The Glaze race was fighting for the Rhino Apes race. Now that Luli was about to come out again, it was like when it rains, it pours. Chief Patriarch dispatched forces at once. He asked all the powerful warriors close to the consummate realm, from nearby universes to the Ice River Valley. Second Patriarch was there as well. They must kill Luli in the Ice River Valley. The second elder had brought 5 elders with him. There were originally 5 supreme powerhouses on the other side, and there were as many as 30 powerhouses who were infinitely close to the Great Perfection realm that had been mobilized from nearby. Second Patriarch thought it would be difficult for Luli to escape, even if he could crack the formation with so many powerful warriors there. As long as he had the chance, he could kill Luli. They directly teleported over, and after arriving at ancient Rhino City, they flew towards the frozen river valley at their fastest speed. By the time they flew over, the nearby elders had already arrived. More than 20 elders stood nervously outside the Ice River Valley, scanning the situation inside. Luckily, the formation hasn't been completely broken. Second Patriarch breathed in relief. He checked, but could only find Blood Fairy. Luli was nowhere to be found. Blood Fairy lurked underground, darting in and out of the spell formation, trying to break it. The second elder could sense that the divine inscriptions on the grand formation were weakening. It wouldn't take long before the formation was broken. Can I kill this succubus? Second Patriarch asked several patriarchs. One of the patriarchs replied, I think we can use soul attacks. But we have a discussion. How about we wait and see if Luli will come out after the formation is broken? We have so many powerful warriors in ambush. If we can take this chance to kill Luli, we can solve the problem once and for all. Of course, we will have to rely on Second Patriarch's decision. Sure, Second Patriarch thought about it. Luli was nowhere to be found. Was it possible that he was hiding in the Shumi space? If he was going to come out, he must leave some traces. Then there might be a chance to kill Luli. Luli was like a ticking time bomb in the Ice River Valley. He could come out at any time to ruin things. If they could kill Luli, then it would be the end of the matter. However, Second Patriarch remembered what the Rhino Ape's master said and how much he valued Luli. Second Patriarch's heart was pounding. Could they kill Luli? If they could not, and Luli came out, then the Rhino Ape's race would be doomed. The second elder's heart was in turmoil, and just as he was hesitating, an elder suddenly sent him a voice transmission. Second elder, there's movement below. Second Patriarch checked at once. There was a slight fluctuation in the depth of the Ice River Valley. It was like a breeze blowing over the surface of a lake, causing some ripples. When he checked again, the fluctuation in space had gone back to normal. They didn't find Luli either. Good. Second Patriarch was excited. Did Luli come out from the Shumi space? Or did he just come out and go back? Whatever it was, if Luli left some traces when he came out, then he might leave some traces later. With so many powerful warriors attacking at the same time, Luli would be forced out. By then, even if Luli could kill some of them, he could be killed by them all. Hide and wait for the formation to be broken. Second Patriarch said. Then he used stealth skill and hid above the Ice River Valley. At the same time, he said, try not to use psychic power. Try to sense with force in heaven and earth. The moment the formation is broken, we will attack together and force Luli out. Okay, the patriarchs were excited. Luli killed so many patriarchs and almost led to the extinction of the rhinoceros ape race. They hated Luli so much. How could they miss a chance to kill Luli? All the patriarchs went into hiding at once. Those who didn't have powerful stealth skills would step back and conceal their chi and energy. Time moved on. The patriarchs were getting more and more nervous. They didn't release any divine glyphs. Instead, they relied on force in heaven and earth to sense the situation in the Ice River Valley. An hour had passed. The last divine glyphs formation was about to be broken. The patriarchs were getting more and more nervous. Something is happening again. Second Patriarch and the other patriarchs nearby all felt something in the Ice River Valley. A man was faintly discernible in the cave and sneaking out. Second Patriarch and the patriarchs were overjoyed when they sensed this. Finally, Luli could not wait any longer. The moment the formation was broken, it would be Luli's time to die. Luli took a few steps in the cave of the Ice River Valley, and then disappeared as if he had gone back into the shimmy space. Second Patriarch and the other patriarchs were not concerned. The divine glyphs were about to be broken. How could Luli sit still? Of course, he would come out at once. Buzzing, the last of the divine glyphs was broken, and Blood Fairy suddenly disappeared. Then a sword slash came out of the cave and went all the way to the Ice River Valley. It broke a section of the wall at the entrance of the Ice River Valley, and the poisonous liquid was drawn to the outside. Attack! Second Patriarch yelled. He didn't even care if the resources in the Ice River Valley would be destroyed. Leading a group of powerful warriors, Second Patriarch bombarded the Ice River Valley and unleashed many horrifying moves. The entire Ice River Valley suddenly turned into a mess. Space was torn apart and layers of ice were blasted apart. Venom flew in all directions. If there were any martial artists here, then not even their dregs would be left. Chapter 36:08. The bombardment went on for an hour. The Ice River Valley had changed. Many layers of ice were blasted away, and some rocks were crushed. But Second Patriarch and the others did not see Luli, not even a shadow. Was Luli smashed into pieces? Or Luli never came out? Or had he run away? Second Patriarch and the others could not figure it out. They had to stop and check. They used psychic power to check and sense through force in heaven and earth. They sensed for more than 2 hours, but still did not find anything. Second Patriarch was panicking. If they could not kill Luli and he could escape, it would be a disaster for the rhinoceros ape race. Lay down the divine patterns and seal this place up. Second Patriarch ordered after some thoughts. Whether Luli was hiding or had escaped, they had to seal this place up first. They would seal this place first. If Luli could not get out, then they would keep him trapped here. As soon as Second Patriarch gave the order, several patriarchs went to work. It's done. Luli was in the realm of magic. He saw everything through the crystal ball and the map. If he did not leave now, he would not be able to later. Now that the patriarchs were working, they could not attack anymore. This was the best time to run away. Luli released the traceless path and came out. When he came out, he didn't cause any spatial fluctuations at all. The spatial fluctuations that appeared before and the light shadow that was detected were all intentional. He did that to distract Second Patriarch and the others so that they would not attack Blood Fairy. He flew to the top of the Ice River Valley and swaggered away from a group of elders. 300 miles away from the Ice River Valley, Luli stood in midair and looked at Second Patriarch and the others. He grinned coldly. Then he directly revealed himself and shouted, "Everyone, don't bother. I'm already out. I am grateful for the kindness the rhinoceros ape race has shown me. I will repay the rhinoceros ape race." Luli shouted using Dragon Roar. His voice echoed to a radius of 3,000 miles, making Second Patriarch and the others tremble. Second Patriarch looked over and saw Luli. Before Second Patriarch could do anything, Luli had vanished again. Whoosh! The patriarchs dashed over as fast as they could and launched all kinds of attacks at the spot where Luli was standing. The space there was torn apart again and again. However, there was no one in the air. Luli had disappeared again. It's over. The tiger has returned to the mountain. The second elder's lips tasted bitter. His eyes lost focus, and even his hands were trembling slightly. Luli, the god of massacre, had come out. Next, the rhinoceros ape race would suffer his bloody revenge and massacre. Besides, with the death of the rhinoceros ape race's consummate warrior, there was no other powerful warrior that could suppress Luli. Luli alone could wipe out the rhinoceros apes, not to mention other races. Everyone go back. After a short period of absent-mindedness, the second elder ordered all the elders to return. They were not to return to the Rhino Ancient City, but to return to the Rhino Ape City. He wanted to report to the Great Elder and see how this matter was handled. If it wasn't handled well, then the rhinoceros ape race would face a disaster. A group of powerful warriors teleported back immediately. Luli left the ancient rhino realm as well. He planned to contact the god of death and send a message that he had come out so that Lord Li and the headquarters of the god of death would not be in a hurry. He would take his time to deal with the rhinoceros ape race later. The consummate warrior of the rhinoceros ape race was dead. For Lu Li, he could mess with the rhinoceros ape race however he wanted. As long as they did not ask for the help of a consummate warrior, he could destroy the rhinoceros ape race easily. Therefore, he was not in a hurry. He wanted to take a look first. After being trapped for decades, he was eager to get in touch with the outside world. After Second Elder and the others came back, the most important patriarchs and the chief patriarch called for an emergency meeting. They all knew about the death of the master of the rhinoceros ape race. That laughter and the other patriarchs were of the opinion that this was the most serious situation the rhinoceros ape race had ever faced. They had a day's meeting and reached two conclusions. The first was to speed up the evacuation and move many elites and resources to the ancestral land. The second was to negotiate with Lu Li and bow to him. This was what the master of the rhinoceros ape race said before his death. As long as Lu Li was dealt with, the rhinoceros ape race should be able to hang on for some time. After the laughter, nothing happened. The gladius race and the other major races nearby did not do anything either. Therefore, the chief patriarch and the other patriarchs hoped that they could get lucky. The top priority was to deal with Lu Li. Second Elder was in charge. It was okay if they could not find Lu Li. They could go to the god of death directly. The rhinoceros ape race did not believe that Lu Li had really escaped from the god of death. They did find out that Lu Li's family was still living in the Tianyu city. It was a joke that Lu Li had escaped from the god of death. Second Elder sent a patriarch to the god of death branch and left a letter for the god of death to deliver to Lu Li that the rhinoceros ape race was willing to talk. As long as Lu Li wanted to talk, then everything was negotiable. The rhinoceros ape race was efficient. As soon as Lu Li contacted the god of death, the latter sent a message saying that the rhinoceros ape race wanted to talk. Lu Li was delighted to hear the news. The rhinoceros ape race was cowering fast. Lu Li was not in a hurry to talk. Instead, he asked the god of death to contact Lord Li and asked the three of them to go back to the endless ruins. Now that the rhinoceros ape race was under control, the endless ruins were safe. Lu Li also asked the god of death to tell Lord Li that if they were interested, they could conquer the territories of the Blood Rock race, the Boring Blade race, and the Rune race. None of the three races had powerful warriors that were close to the consummate realm. The rhinoceros ape race wouldn't say anything even if they could conquer the territories. What was more, the negotiations had not started yet. Lord Li was overjoyed and thanked Lu Li profusely. They even said that they would come and thank Lu Li. But Lu Li told them to go back on their own. The rhinoceros ape race was still under control. Lu Li had to be careful. What if Lord Li was being followed? As soon as Lord Li went back, Lu Li took action. That was right. The rhinoceros ape race said they wanted to talk. But Lu Li had been trapped for decades. He didn't want to talk directly. He wanted to vent his anger, kill some powerful warriors of the rhinoceros ape race, and wipe out hundreds of thousands of warriors. Also, he wanted to cripple the rhinoceros ape race. Naturally, he could not agree to the peace talks so easily. Through the communication with the god of death, Lu Li learned that the master of the rhinoceros ape race had passed away. But the rhinoceros ape race kept the news a secret. Lu Li used the master of the rhinoceros ape race as a deterrent. If the master of the rhinoceros ape race didn't come out after Lu Li slaughtered at will, the major races of the Tianyu Star region would grow suspicious. By then, the rhinoceros ape race would be in endless trouble. Lu Li didn't care too much about wiping out the rhinoceros ape race, but he couldn't let the rhinoceros ape race live an easy life. In this way, the rhinoceros ape race wouldn't be able to cause trouble to the endless ruins or the Lu family. This was what Lu Li wanted. Of course, Lu Li wanted to talk. Over the years, the rhinoceros ape race had accumulated many resources and treasures. Some would be enough for Lu Meng to use for many years. In addition, there were many warriors on his side. Lu Meng could win people over by sharing some with them. Lu Li wanted to hurt the rhinoceros ape race before the talks. He wanted to break them down. By then, the rhinoceros ape race would have to give him whatever he wanted. Chapter 36:09. In a half a year, Luli began to attack like crazy. He did not take a break. He would attack 2 or 3 places in a universe. Basically, he would destroy a city and crack open some places with resources. He didn't kill civilians, but as long as they were in military uniform, he would kill them all. In half a year, he had destroyed more than 10 cities and opened up more than 10 places with precious resources. Since the rhinoceros apes were conservative, many powerful warriors that were infinitely close to the consummate realm had left, leaving Luli to attack. Therefore, over the past 6 months, Luli had only killed 11 warriors that were infinitely close to the consummate realm, hundreds of Saint Kings, and over 5 million warriors. The Rhino Ape tribe could afford these losses. What the Rhinoceros Ape tribe couldn't afford was their reputation. Even though the eyes of the entire Tianyu Star region had recently turned to the Meng tribe, the Rhinoceros Ape tribe didn't dare to offend them. However, with such a huge incident happening here, how could it not attract the attention of other forces? There were traitors in every major force, as well as scouts from various races. It was impossible to hide the news. Especially, every time Luli attacked, he would leave his name behind. It was hard not to attract attention. A few decades ago, the Rhinoceros Ape Race King had killed a Great Perfection Stage cultivator and heavily injured a Great Perfection Stage cultivator. His name had shaken the entire Sky Universe star region. Decades had passed. Many major races thought that Luli had been killed by the master of the Rhinoceros Ape Race, or that he had gone back to the chaotic star region. Little did they expect that Luli would show up again and begin his killing spree. If the Rhinoceros Ape King was still alive, the Rhinoceros Ape tribe would not panic at all. The problem was that the master of the Rhinoceros Ape Race was dead. If Luli kept on attacking and the master of the Rhinoceros Ape Race didn't come out, the Rhinoceros Ape Race would be discovered sooner or later. When that happened, the leader of the Glaze tribe would probably be the first to jump out, and the Rhino Ape tribe would be annihilated. The Great Elder of the Rhinoceros Ape Race was very anxious. The second elder simply went to the Death God's branch and waited there every day. At first, the Reaper Division said that Luli was no longer their leader and that they had no way of contacting him. They waited for more than a month. After Second Patriarch went in person, the leader of the Grim Reaper's branch came out. He said that he could find a way to contact Luli and help the Rhino Ape Race to make peace and bury the hatchet. The branch leader had come out, and the second elder saw hope. He also understood that Luli would talk, but not so easily. Luli would kill them first to vent his anger. At the same time, Luli could put pressure on them. Therefore, Second Patriarch sent a message back and asked all the powerful warriors of the tribe to go back. If Luli wanted to kill or destroy the city, then so be it. As long as he didn't kill the elders, the second elder wouldn't feel the slightest bit of heartache for the ordinary clansmen and some soldiers. He stayed in the Death God branch and waited for news every day. His attitude was extremely humble, and he almost knelt down to the branch leader of the Death God branch. The branch leader of the Reaper Division was a great patriarch and a member of Luli's faction. He carried out Luli's order perfectly. He stalled Patriarch 2 and let go bit by bit. For example, 3 months ago, Luli said he wanted to negotiate. 2 months ago, Luli sent a message that the Rhino Apes could state their terms. The Rhinoceros race made many offers, but Luli kept on killing them. He sent a message that the Rhinoceros race was not sincere. Second Patriarch had to increase the price. Luli indicated that he needed to think about it again before he continued the slaughter. Second Patriarch was speechless. What was Luli doing? He could just say what he wanted. Why did he have to push them into desperation? The Death God branch was feeling proud and elated. When the news was sent back to the headquarters of the Death God, they were all cheered up. Luli had been quiet for decades without any news, which worried the Death God. The powerful warriors on Luli's side were wavering. If there was still no news about Luli, they might change sides and go to the other giants. Now that Luli had come out and started killing with such arrogance, the Death God was thrilled and proud. The Death God also spread the news about Luli to the Chaotic Star region. Many warriors of the Chaotic Star region felt proud as well. Luli was a warrior of the Chaotic Star region. Not long ago, he killed his way to the Heaven's Dipper Star region, and now he was going to the Heaven Universe Star region. It was believed that the rhinoceros race would be suppressed by him again. The rhinoceros race was the pride of the Chaotic Star region. Of course, some major races were afraid. The Death God was not to be messed with. Luli claimed that he was free from the Death God. Lu family members were all at the Tianyuan city. If they provoked the Death God and Luli learned about it, they would end up like the duos and the rhinoceros race. The Lu Alliance was the most excited. Lu Ling had blocked off the information, so the average disciples of the Lu Alliance didn't know. Luli had been trapped for decades. The Lu Alliance had tens of thousands more disciples, all transported from the Middle King realms. When they arrived, they didn't hear any news about Luli. What's more, they heard many rumors. They were alarmed, thinking that Luli was dead. The Lu Alliance was growing fast. Many disciples of the first few batches had grown up. With a large amount of resources and the means of the Death God, they were making rapid progress. Even though the Lu Alliance did not have many great Emperor Realm warriors, there were many at the Sixth Tribulation. In total, there were thousands of them. Those at the Sixth Tribulation were young. In the future, hundreds of them would reach the Great Emperor Realm, and then the lucky ones would reach the Saint Emperor Realm. Those were the future pillars of the Lu Alliance, the foundation for the Lu Alliance to stand firm in the Death God. Of course, the foundation of the Lu Alliance was Luli. Now that Luli was safe and sound, all the disciples of the Lu Alliance were cheered up. They cultivated harder. Over the decades, the Lu Alliance had several great Emperor Realm warriors. Unlure was one of them. She was progressing fast. She had reached the middle stage of the Great Emperor Realm. Many elders of the Lu Alliance felt ashamed. This miraculous fetus was impressive. As Luli's apprentice, she had unlimited resources. She could have anything she wanted. Everything was going well at the Death God. Luli stopped after half a year. Since there were no more warriors that were close to the completion, Luli found the killing boring. Killing some armies and great Emperor Realm warriors could not inflict much damage to the rhinoceros apes, nor could Luli feel any sense of accomplishment. Luli stopped. He sent a message to the leader of the Death God's branch to negotiate on his behalf. The core of the negotiation was resources. The more, the better. Treasures, elixirs, books, tablets, materials, they were all related to cultivation or rare treasures. The more, the better. Luli sent a message, squeeze them dry until the rhinoceros apes could no longer accept it. The rhinoceros apes were like livestock waiting to be slaughtered. Luli's actions had revealed that the rhinoceros apes were strong in appearance, but weak in reality. If the rhinoceros apes could not have a warrior at the completion soon, they would not be able to hold on. Sooner or later, they would be wiped out. If they did not extort them now, they would not have the chance in the future. The Great Patriarch received Luli's order to start the negotiation. He did not state his terms. Instead, he asked Patriarch 2 to do so. Second Patriarch Luo listed many terms. The Death God Branch Master accepted them all, but said that it was not enough and that he should add more. Patriarch 2 had to add more. The resources were already equivalent to the accumulation of an average race for 10,000 years. Still, the Branch Master was not satisfied. In the end, Patriarch 2 asked the Branch Master to state his price. What the Branch Master said almost made Patriarch 2 jump to his feet. Increase all the prices you offered by 10 times. Lord Lu said that you have caused him great harm. If you're not sincere, then he will go to the clan leader of the glazed race and work together to destroy the rhinoceros apes. 10 times? Impossible. No. Patriarch 2's eyes were filled with anger. He yelled, if you increase the price by 10 times, then all the stocks of the rhinoceros apes will be gone. What will we eat? What will we drink? The Branch Master smiled, picked up his teacup, and said, we will not die if we don't eat or drink. But if we don't, we will die. Chapter 36:10. This was not a fair negotiation. One side had the lifeline of the other side. Luli would win no matter how the negotiation went. The branch master of the Reaper was a ruthless one. He tested the rhinoceros ape race's tolerance. In the end, the second patriarch of the rhinoceros ape race almost smashed his head against the wall. When the negotiation was over, the rhinoceros ape race asked for Lu Li's help. The price was that the resources agreed upon were doubled. They asked Lu Li to make a statement that he would no longer be an enemy of the rhinoceros ape race. The statement was of no use. Just like how the Gui's race asked Lu Li to make a statement, it was like a farting. Of course, the statement could buy the rhinoceros ape race some time, so that the outside world could not be sure if the master of the rhinoceros ape race was dead or not. Lu Li didn't care. The rhinoceros ape race promised to give the territories of the Bloodrock race, Dullblade race, and the Talisman race to Lu Li. The ruins of divinity would be safe. The rhinoceros ape race had no time to worry about the affiliated universes. Also, Lu Li had extorted a large amount of resources, hundreds of times more than what he got from the Gui's race. When he got the list of resources, Lu Li regretted that he had extorted too little from the Gui's race. He didn't know that the super races were so rich. If the resources were only for Lu Li's cultivation, he could squander them for 10,000 years without worrying about the shortage of resources. Lu Li wished he could go to the Tiangang galaxy again and fight with the Gui's race. A month later, the first batch of resources arrived. It was half of what was agreed upon. Lu Li kept his promise and asked the branch master of the Reaper to make an announcement. The announcement stated that the misunderstanding between him and the master of the rhinoceros ape race had been resolved. They shook hands and buried the hatchet. From now on, they would live in peace and build a better future together. As soon as the announcement came out, the Tiangang galaxy was in an uproar. Many major races had their attention on Lu Li, waiting for a good show. Who knew that the two sides would stop fighting? Also, Lu Li made an announcement. It seemed he was taught a lesson by the master of the rhinoceros ape race. Did he admit defeat? It had been decades since the master of the rhinoceros ape race came out. Now, his name was known throughout the Tiangang galaxy. The major races that had looked down on the rhinoceros ape race no longer dared to do so. The nearby Ming tribe members trembled in fear. Originally, there were more than a dozen large tribes preparing to attack them. If the Rhino Ape tribe joined in, the consequences would be even more serious. The rhinoceros ape race wanted this kind of effect. They wanted to continue stabilizing for a period of time, even if it was 100 years. They were very unwilling to retreat back to their ancestral land and give up so much territory. After Lu Li's matter was dealt with, Chief Patriarch and Second Patriarch were ready to cultivate to reach the consummate level. This time, they were extorted by Lu Li. But for a super overlord that dominated an area of the universe region and occupied so many territories, the resources were affordable. It wasn't as exaggerated as Second Elder made it out to be, but it was still enough to extort half of the Rhino Ape tribe stockpile. As long as they could keep their territory, resources did not matter. They could just tighten their belts and grit their teeth during this period of time. If they lost their territory, they wouldn't have any resources in the future. It would be very difficult for the Rhino Ape tribe to rise again. Lu Li wasn't in a hurry to go back. He was waiting for the second batch of resources to arrive. All the resources would be delivered in 3 installments, and the second batch would arrive in 3 months. The time for the third batch was longer, 10 years later. The rhinoceros ape race was afraid that Lu Li would go back on his words, so they were delaying it on purpose. This didn't matter. As long as the Rhino Ape race wasn't destroyed, would they dare to not give these resources? In 10 years, Lu Li could come back and kill them again. 3 months later, Lu Li left the universe region with the resources and took a battleship back to the Chaotic Star region. The two galaxies were next to each other, but they were still far apart. It took Lu Li more than half a year to get back to the Chaotic Star region. As soon as Lu Li came back, the God of Death issued an announcement. After repeated discussions with the leaders at the headquarters of the God of Death, they invited Lu Li to join the God of Death and become a leader. As soon as the announcement came out, Many races in the chaotic star region snorted. Was the god of death treating them like fools? But they approved of Lu Li's character. At the critical moment, he shouldered the pressure alone so that the god of death wouldn't be involved. Many races despised the other leaders of the god of death, believing that they were irresponsible. When they needed Lu Li, he was the boss. When they didn't need Lu Li, they would draw a line with him. As for what Lu Li did at the universe region and the announcement, many warriors of the chaotic star region took it as a joke. Many warriors of the chaotic star region took it as a joke as well. Lu Li must have benefited greatly, or else he would not have made such a public announcement, given his character. In other words, Lu Li alone had subdued the rhino ape race and extorted a lot of benefits from them. In the end, he showed some respect to the rhino ape race, and in return, he had gained a lot. Therefore, even though Lu Li had made an announcement, none of the major races dared to belittle him. Half a month after Lu Li came back, the gang race and the other races sent over messengers to congratulate Lu Li on his victory. They brought many gifts as well. Clearly, they were trying to please Lu Li and strengthen their relationship. The underlying meaning was clear as well. They were allies. Lu Li, don't do anything rash after decades of development. The god of death had become particularly powerful. There were more than a dozen warriors that were infinitely close to the absolute completion. Now, in terms of the number, the god of death was among the top 3 in the chaotic star region. It was a pity that the god of death had not reached the absolute completion. That being said, in the eyes of many major races, Lu Li was even more terrifying than the absolute completion. The god of death had been holding banquets for a month. The 9 leaders of the god of death were more friendly to Lu Li. Even Emperor Li had expressed on many occasions that he would follow Lu Li's lead. Lu Li had done well in this regard. He was humble, low-key, and respectful to Emperor Li. As a matter of fact, Lu Li had become the boss of the god of death. Lu Li didn't regard himself as the boss. He was respectful to the other 9 leaders. In this way, the other 9 leaders felt comfortable and they were friendlier to Lu Li. Lu Li was not interested in being the boss, and he didn't want to be in charge. He liked the current situation where everyone huddled together for warmth. The Lu alliance was developing fast. His family and descendants were living a comfortable life. The entire Lu family was thriving. For Lu Li, this was the ideal situation. The Lu alliance was not the only one growing. The Middle Realm was growing as well. Over the years, some powerful warriors had returned to the Middle Realm to enhance the overall strength there. Lu alliance was free to come and go. He could go back to the Middle Realm at any time as long as he didn't mess around there. Every year, the Lu alliance would send many resources back to the Middle Realm. Under the management of Saint Xiaoyao, there was almost no major war. The resources were integrated to cultivate batches of powerful warriors. Everything was going well. Lu Li was just waiting for Little White to reach the absolute completion. If nothing major happened on Little White's side, then Lu Li planned to spend the rest of his life in the Tianhua city. He would be accompanied by his family and loved ones. If he could have some children, then everything would be perfect. Chapter 36:11. Finally, the Lu mansion quieted down after 2 months of bustle. Almost every powerful warrior on Lu Li's side came to visit Lu Li. Their leader was back, but they didn't come. Were they tired of living? Lu Li was very courteous to them and accepted all their gifts. Lu Li also gave some treasures selectively. He had extorted many resources from the rhino apes, and he distributed some of them. Carrot and stick. This was the most practical way to command subordinates. When people followed you, they would want benefits. Otherwise, why else would they follow you? If you wanted subordinates to be afraid of you, you must give them benefits. Only in this way would they be loyal to you. By sticking together with Lu Li, they had already gained many benefits. Those on Lu Li's side were in high positions and had the highest status at the Society of Patriarchs. Since they were in the highest position, they would gain the most benefits. Now that Lu Li had given them treasures, they were grateful. They believed they were following the right person, and they were even more loyal to him. Lu Li began to spend time with his wives quietly after he sent them away. The days were easy and comfortable. Lu Li's wives had resigned themselves to the fact that they could not have children. Now, they were focused on Luin and in Luer. They were ready to have a grandchild. As far as Lu Li's wives were concerned, Luer was Lu Li's apprentice and half a daughter. They doted on her and wanted to find a good family for her to have children. Luin was Lu Li's adopted son. Even though he was not Lu Li's biological son, Jiang Qiling and the others watched him grow up. Therefore, they doted on him. It was a pity that Luin did not live up to expectations. Maybe it was because Luin was not talented and he grew up in the mortal world. Therefore, he had been making slow progress in realms. Many disciples of the Lu Alliance had reached the Lord Realm, but Luin had been stuck at the peak of the fifth tribulation. If it were not for the sake of Luan's future, Yin Qingxi and the others would have used some special means to help him pass the heavenly tribulation. In the beginning, Luin was sensible and obedient. However, after he came to the chaotic universe, he became impetuous. As Lu Li's son, Lu Li enjoyed a high status. The Saint Emperors on Lu Li's side could not flatter Lu Li, so they took a roundabout way to befriend Luin. The young masters from the family of patriarchs came to make friends with Luin. At first, Jiang Qiling thought it was good to have more friends. Luin needed his own social circle, and he needed to get to know the young masters of death. Therefore, they let him be. In the past few decades, Luin had become somewhat outrageous. He often fooled around with those young masters and messed around everywhere. Fortunately, he didn't make any big mistakes. Therefore, the higher-ups of the Grim Reaper basically turned a blind eye to it. Patriarch Lu of the Hall of Penalty was on Lu Li's side. Why would he care about Lu Li's son? Luin had been corrupted. Jiang Qiling didn't dare to tell Lu Li about this. Lu Li and Luin didn't spend a long time together, and they weren't that close. Since Jiang Qiling and the others didn't mention it, Jiang Qiling wouldn't ask about it. But when he came back, she told him that Luin was out on an adventure. Lu Li didn't ask further. Luin had been spending his days drinking and fooling around with young ladies from small families. It was said that he had gotten into trouble recently. Jiang Qiling was afraid that something might happen to Luin, so she had been trying to arrange a marriage for Luin. She wanted him to marry a young lady from a respectable family, so that Luin would be more relaxed. Jiang Qiling had been preparing for this when she was at the third heaven. But since Lu Li was in trouble, she was not in the mood to do so. Therefore, she never did anything for Luin Lu and had a young lady he liked at the Central King universe, and they had been together for a while. But when Lu Li went to the demonic abyss, many families avoided the Lu family. Therefore, the marriage fell through and the young lady was taken away by force. It was more difficult for Enluer. She was arrogant and looked down on all the young masters of the Grim Reaper. Jiang Qiling and the others had to arrange for Luin. During this time, they had found some young ladies. For example, the Yu family had a young lady from the immediate family. The other major families also had some young ladies from the immediate family. Jiang Qiling told Lu Li about it. He didn't mind. He asked Jiang Qiling and the others to take care of it and give them something to do. Now that the Lu family had settled down, it was normal for Lu and to get married. In the early years, it was because of him that the Lu family could not settle down. Lu Li felt guilty. He told Jiang Qiling to organize a grand wedding to make it up to Lu and Jiang Qiling by Qiu Xue, by Xia Shuang, and Qi Shi'er began to investigate the young ladies. After some comparison, they decided that they were young ladies of the Yu family. Lu Li was close to Emperor of Yu, and he was Yang of Yu's brother. A marriage would further enhance their relationship. The Feather Emperor's fleshly body had been destroyed. Rebuilding a new fleshly body would have some impact on his future cultivation. That being said, it was unlikely that the 9 powerful warriors, including Lu Li, could make progress. It was almost impossible for them to reach the perfect realm. On the other hand, Emperor of Yu had destroyed his physical body for the Grim Reaper. He enjoyed a high status in the Grim Reaper. He was a Yuan Sun who had bled for the Grim Reaper and almost lost his life. Who would dare to disrespect him? What was more, Emperor of Yu had given up on cultivation. He was more interested in managing. Currently, He was only inferior to Lu Li and Emperor Li in the Grim Reaper. If Lu Li and Emperor of Yu could work together, it would be helpful for the future development of the Lu Alliance. After the confirmation, Jiang Qiling went to the Yu family with Bai Qiuxue and the others in person. Both Lu Renhuang and Lu Ling went, which was a great honor to the Yu family. Emperor of Yu came out to receive them in person. He wouldn't have come if it were just Jiang Qiling. But Lu Renhuang was Lu Li's father. The Yu family had to rely on the Lu family. Naturally, Emperor of Yu had to pay attention. Emperor of Yu didn't know about this yet. When he learned that Jiang Qiling was proposing for Lu Li's adopted son, he agreed without hesitation. The target of the marriage proposal was only his little granddaughter. He had dozens of granddaughters while Lu Li only had one adopted son. As a matter of fact, this young lady of the Yu family was climbing the social ladder. The other patriarchs of the Yu family were overjoyed. Luan was almost the crown prince. A young lady of the Yu family could become the crown prince's wife. For the Yu family, this was the best thing they could ask for, even though they had heard some rumors that Lu was a playboy. But every descendant of the 9 powerful warriors had some playboys. As long as he was Lu Li's son, that was enough. Not to mention that he was at the peak of the 5th tribulation. It wouldn't matter even if he was a cripple and couldn't practice martial arts. I don't agree. Right when Yu family was holding a banquet, a timid but determined voice came out. The future crown prince's wife, that was invited by the Yu family, said with red eyes, biting her teeth, "I will not marry him. I will not marry him even if I have to die. I don't care about the others, but I will not marry Luan." The banquet was boisterous and had a good atmosphere. But as soon as this young lady of the Yu family finished her words, it became so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. The atmosphere in the hall became extremely awkward, especially the patriarchs of the Yu family and Emperor of Yu. Their expressions turned cold. It was as if a mountain was pressing down on them. The temperature in the hall dropped to the freezing point. Lu Renhuang, Jiang Qiling, and the others were embarrassed as well. Bai Xiaoshuang understood something. She was an impatient person. She asked directly, "Lady Yuling, what has Luan done to anger the heavens and the people? Why is it that you can marry everyone, but not my Luan?" The young lady was frightened by Emperor Yu's imposing manner. Her pretty face turned pale, but she still gritted her teeth and said stubbornly, "Aunt Xiaoshuang, 3 months ago Ling went to the Heavenly King realm to train and witness some very disgusting things. As for the details, you can ask Luan. All in all, I will not marry Luan. He is so evil. He is evil to the core. I will not marry him even if I have to die. Bastard." Emperor of Yu flew into a rage. He scolded, "What kind of occasion is this? Do you have the right to speak here? Marriage is decided by the parents and the matchmaker. Who are you to object to it? Where are the rules of the Yu family? Someone, take this bastard away and punish him according to the family rules." Chapter 36:12. Swish, swish, swish. Yuling turned pale with fright as Emperor of Feather flew into a rage. At the Yu family, Emperor of Feather was like a god, and the rules of the Yu family were strict. According to the family rules, she might have to spend the rest of her life in prison. From a delicate young lady of a big family to a green-lit wooden fish, that would be a life worse than death. Emperor of Feather, please don't be angry. Jiang Qiling and Bai Qiuxue were at a loss. Lu Ling, on the other hand, had been in many situations. She had made decisions on behalf of Lu Li. She stood up, cupped her fists, and said, "Lady Yu Ling is still young. Don't scare her. The marriage is consensual. If Lady Yu Ling does not like Luan, then it is not a good thing to force them to be together." Emperor of Feather was still in a rage. He glared at his sick son and said, "Yu He, how are you going to discipline your children? You bastards." After some swearing, Emperor of Feather said to Lu Renhuang, Lu Ling, and Jiang Qiling apologetically, "I am sorry. My family is not strict enough. Don't worry about it. I have full authority to decide. Now that we have reached an agreement, there is no going back." "No hurry." Lu Ling gave Jiang Qiling and Bai Xiaoshuang a meaningful look. Then she said, "About Lewin, we may have neglected to discipline him over the years. We don't know the details yet. So, I think we should postpone the marriage for now. We will look into it. If it is as Lady Yuling said, we cannot let it go. We cannot harm Lady Yuling either. We have been too rash. I hope Emperor of Feather and Lords can forgive us." "Not at all." Emperor of Feather waved his hand and said, "How bad can Lu Li's son be? This little girl must have heard some rumors, that's all. I am ashamed that I did not teach her well. Now that the marriage has been decided, there is no going back." Emperor of Feather was determined. For him, this was just a granddaughter. He had so many granddaughters. Marrying one of them was not a big deal. So what if Lu Li's son was a playboy? The point was that Lu was Lu Li's son. As long as he was not an unforgivable pervert, nothing else mattered. But Lu Ling insisted on delaying the marriage. She asked the Emperor of Yu to keep it a secret until they had a thorough investigation. Seeing that Lu Ling was determined, Emperor of Feather said nothing more. Lu Ling left with a group of people. As soon as they were gone, Emperor of Feather slapped the table in rage. He stared at his sixth son and said, "This is your own business. If you don't handle it well, you can forget about staying at the Yu family." Yu Huang had more than 10 sons, and Yu Yang was the youngest. Under Yu Huang's rage, not to mention Yu Ling, even Yu Ling's father was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly apologized and brought Yu Ling home to discipline her. On the other hand, Lu Ling had returned to the Lu mansion. As soon as they came in, Lu Ling asked Lu Li to come to the meeting hall. Jiang Qiling and the others went to the meeting hall as well. Jiang Qiling and the others were worried. Lu Ling might not be a member of the Lu family, but she was closer to Lu Li than a real sister. Also, Lu Ling had always been a cold-blooded person. They were all afraid of her. "What is going on?" Lu Li walked into the meeting hall leisurely. Lu Ling's face was cold, and Jiang Qiling and Bai Xiaoshuang were not happy. Lu Li asked with surprise, "Didn't you go to the Yu family to propose marriage? Why do you look so upset? Did the Yu family turn him down?" Lu Ling sighed and said, "It is not the Yu family, but Lu and Lu Li, I think you need to discipline him." Lu Ling told Lu Li about what happened at the Yu family. Lu Li's face darkened. Sensing something was wrong, Jiang Qiling said in a hurry, "Darling, Luin is still young. He is not sensible. Maybe he has been led astray by the playboys in the Tianyue city. He is a playboy. We just need to teach him a lesson." Bai Xiaoshuang said as well, "Yes, darling. We watched Luin grow up. How bad can he be? That girl of the Yu family must have heard some rumors and framed Lu." And Lu Renhuang sighed and said, "Lu Li, he is just a kid. Just discipline him." "Okay, that's enough." Lu Li waved his hand and shouted, "Go and get Patriarch Yu here." Lu Li's face was clouded. He said nothing more. The atmosphere in the hall was suffocating. Jiang Qiling and the other twins looked at each other, worried. They knew Lu Li's character very well. If Luin really had done something evil, it would be hard for Lu Li to smooth things over this time. Patriarch Yu was the Grim Reaper's person in charge of intelligence. Not external, but internal. This Patriarch was not on Lu Li's side. But as a powerful warrior, Lu Li had the right to mobilize him. A deacon of the Lu mansion went to get Patriarch Yu. In the time for one incense stick to burn, a white-haired old man came. He went into the meeting hall, got down on one knee, and said, "Greetings, Emperor Lu. Greetings, everyone. Patriarch Yu, please rise," Lu Li said in a low voice. He was not in a good mood. Patriarch Yu's eyelids twitched. He was nervous. Lu Li was usually kind, but when he was angry, he would be furious. Patriarch Yu bowed and said, "Emperor Lu, what can I do for you? I will do my best." Lu Li asked coldly, "Where is Luin now? Young Master Luin?" Patriarch Yu was surprised. Then he replied at once, "He should still be at the Heavenly King City. According to our intelligence, young Master Luin, Li Yuan, and Gu, she went to the Heavenly King universe 4 months ago. They have been living there. Occasionally, they will go to some places to train." "Train?" A gust of cold air rose from Lu Li as he shouted, "Patriarch Yu, do you want to give up your position as a patriarch? Or do you think I am a fool?" "What?" As soon as Lu Li finished his last word, he exerted his overwhelming energy. The patriarch dropped to his knees, kowtowed to Lu Li, and said, "Emperor Lu, please don't be angry. I am sorry, I am sorry." "Speak," Lu Li shouted. "That bastard Luin, did he do something evil? Tell me everything. Do not leave anything out. If the intelligence is wrong, and I know about it later, you will lose your position as a patriarch." Patriarch Yu's expressions changed. He wanted to say something, but stopped on second thought. He looked around and said, "Emperor Lu, can I tell you this in private?" "Of course." Lu Li waved his hand and said to Lu Ling and the others, "You can leave now, darling." Jiang Qiling knew things were about to go south. She looked at Lu Li, begging. Bai Xiaoshuang walked over as well. She was about to say something when Lu Li said firmly, "Don't say anything. Leave." Lu Li was losing his temper. Jiang Qiling and the others did not dare to say anything else. They all left. Lu Li activated all the divine glyphs in the conference room before he asked, "Go ahead. Tell me everything. Do not leave anything out." "Okay." Patriarch Yu thought about his words and said, "Young Master Lu and has been hanging around with some famous playboys in our department. I think he has been led astray. Well, this time, they went overboard at the Heavenly Palace. They kidnapped more than a dozen young ladies from decent families and tortured 8 to death. 2 small families were also wiped out by them. Thousands of people were killed. I have reported this to the Hall of Discipline. I thought the Hall of Discipline would report to you, so I did not come. It is my fault." Bang! After Lu Li heard this, he slapped the stone table next to him. The entire stone table was turned into powder. Chapter 36:13. Many patriarchs at the Hall of Patriarchs knew about what happened to Lu, and Jiang Qiling was informed as well. But the information she received was not complete. She only knew that Lu had committed a crime at the Heaven Palace universe, but not the severity of the matter. Jiang Qiling and the others thought that Luin and the others would at most drink, fight, or be jealous of each other. Therefore, Jiang Qiling used her identity as Lu Li's wife to suppress the matter. Lu Li didn't spread the news. Lu Li had several deacons working at the Hall of Intelligence. Normally speaking, they should have reported the matter to Lu Ling. But since Jiang Qiling had spoken, they didn't dare to say anything. The Hall of Discipline received the news because 2 small families were wiped out. It was not a small matter. If it were any other young master, they would have been dealt with. But Luin was different. What was more, Lu Li was about to come back 3 months ago. Lu Li had been out there for decades, fighting against the rhino apes all by himself. The Grim Reaper already felt guilty about him. Now that Lu Li had come back victorious, he would be furious if he received such bad news as soon as he came back. Several patriarchs who knew the inside story suppressed the matter. The Heaven Palace universe went to deal with it as well. The families of the girls were appeased. They didn't make trouble, and the matter was suppressed for now. Little did they know that the matter was blown up because Jiang Qiling went to the Yu family to propose marriage. Yuling happened to go to the Heaven Palace universe to train several months ago. She learned about the matter. How could she accept a husband like this? The matter was exposed, and Lu Li learned about it. If it were not for Yuling, the matter would have been handled in a low-key manner. Lu Li might not even know about it. After all, there were too many chief patriarchs and great patriarchs on Lu Li's side. They would have to clean up the mess for the young masters of Lu Li's side. Lu Li had thought that even if Luin were to mess around, it would only be some small misdeeds. How could it be this serious? Lu Li was trembling with anger. After a while, he shouted, "Tell Lu Yushan of the Hall of Discipline to come and see me. Also, order the law enforcement team to arrest all of them at once." Lawless, lawless. Seeing that Lu Li was enraged, Patriarch Yu wasted no more time and left to carry out Lu Li's orders. As soon as Patriarch Yu went out, many people checked with psychic power. Seeing that Lu Li had smashed the table and was filled with killing intent, Jiang Qiling and the others knew that something bad was about to happen. Nobody dared to say more. Jiang Qiling and the others had to go to Lu Renwang, Lu Xingyang, and Lu Feishue. They were the only ones who had the courage to say anything. After a while, The patriarch of the Hall of Penalty came. He knew that his good intentions had led to disaster. He knelt to Lu Li at once and said, "Emperor Lu, I am guilty. Please don't be angry. I will not complain if you want to kill me or cut me up." Scram! Lu Li kicked Patriarch Lu out and said angrily, "If one of the criminals escapes, I will hold you responsible. Find out all the evidence. No matter who they are, get to the bottom of it. There will be no tolerance. If you can't do a good job, you will take the blame and resign." Yes, yes. Patriarch Lu was kicked out of the yard, but he was not unhappy at all. Since Lu Li kicked him, his crime was over. If Lu Li didn't scold or beat him up, the matter would be blown up. Patriarch Lu knew that it was because he was on Lu Li's side and he was protecting Lu Li's son. If it were someone else, he would have lost his position as a patriarch. The Hall of Patriarchs was stirred up by Lu Li's wrath as well. The entire Tianyue city felt the temperature had dropped. The 9 powerful warriors received the news and forced a smile. Lu Li was not putting on a show. He was serious. If Lu Li had followed the rule of death, Luin and the others would all die. The 9 powerful warriors could not say much. 4 young masters had committed the crime, 1 from the Lu family, 1 from the Li family, 1 from the Gu family, and 1 from the Yu family. The other powerful warriors didn't care. The 3 young masters of their families were foppish, and they wouldn't feel sorry for them. Instead, they were worried that Lu Li would kill their own sons. Lu Li would be too sad and angry, which could lead to problems. The 9 powerful warriors discussed for a while and decided to leave the matter alone for a while until Lu Li cooled down. They were afraid that Lu Li would not listen to anything they said. They didn't expect that Lu Li would abhor evil so much. He wanted to kill his own son. As the ruling class, the 9 powerful warriors were at the top of the food chain. For the 9 powerful warriors, the rule was meant to better manage their subordinates, not to control them. Otherwise, why would they set the rule? At the end of the day, the rule was meant to stabilize their rule. Even a prince would be punished like a commoner. This was just a slogan. Once or twice, it was just for show. Sometimes, people could turn a blind eye to certain things. As long as they didn't go too far, they would not incur public anger and destroy the foundation of their rule. But Jiang Qiling and the others were panicking. They truly loved Luin. They raised him since he was little, and he was no different from their own son. Over the years, Luin had been sensible. It was only recently that he had turned bad. As far as they were concerned, Luin was still a kid, no matter how old he was. He was still the well-behaved and sensible kid in their hearts. Nobody dared to persuade Lu Li under such circumstances. Jiang Qiling and the others had to beg Lu Renwang, Lu Zhenyang, Lu Ling, and Lu Feishue. They also sent someone to send a message to Emperor Yu, Emperor Mo, and Emperor of Wings. They were at the same level as Lu Li. Their words carried a lot of weight. It was late at night, the busiest time of the day at the Tianyue city. However, it was quieter tonight. The playboys were drinking and having fun. Soon, they left and went back to their own homes. The restaurants, brothels, and other places suddenly became empty, and the entire city was as silent as a cicada in winter. Lu Li's wrath shook the entire Tianyue city. Patriarch of the Hall of Law Enforcement led several saint emperors to the Heaven Palace universe. The Heaven Palace universe was the most prosperous place after the Heaven Palace universe. Many playboys didn't dare to mess around in the Heaven Palace universe. They all went to the Heaven Palace universe to have fun. Since the 2 universes were next to each other, Patriarch of the Hall of Law Enforcement went to the Heaven Palace universe in person. Patriarchs in charge of the Heaven Palace universe received the news as well. In just over 10 hours, the law enforcement elder came back and captured Lu An's group of 4, as well as the dozens of subordinates that accompanied them. Not a single one was spared. Lu Yushan, interrogate them through the night. Punish them according to the Iron Law. I want a result from the Hall of Law Enforcement before dawn. Lu Li used psychic power to lock on Lu Yushan and sent a message. Lu Yushan accepted the order at once, but inside he was groaning. What else was there to interrogate? They already had all the evidence. They had come to a conclusion several months ago. It was just that they were worried about the identities of Lu En and the other three young masters. Lu Yushan didn't dare to make the decision himself. He had to send these people to the Hall of Law Enforcement. At the same time, he secretly sent a message to the King of Wings, asking them to make a decision. According to the Iron Law, Lu En and the other four would be beheaded even if they had 10 heads. Patriarch Lu En's clothes were disheveled. His hair was in a mess. He was chained up. He reeked of alcohol. Looking at Lu Yushan, he said, "How dare you arrest me? I remember that you're a patriarch of the Lu family, right? Are you going to rebel?" Slap. Lu Yushan came over and slapped Lu and was dumbfounded. Lu Yushan looked stern and cold. He seemed to be impartial. However, he secretly said, "Young Master Lu, if you don't want to die, you'd better be smart. Your father gave the order himself. Your father is furious." Third Sect Master. Chapter 36:14. Lu Yushan knew very well that Lu Li was truly enraged. Otherwise, Lu Yushan could send someone from the Lu Alliance to bring Luan back and deal with him in private. The entire Tianyue city was alarmed by such a large number of people. Based on Lu Li's character, he would kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Luan's status was the most respected among the four young masters. It could be said that he was the leader of the four. Since Lu Li wanted to punish the chicken to warn the monkey, how could he let Luan go? Also, Lu Yushan had heard that Lu En was Lu Li's adopted son, but it didn't seem like they were particularly close. Therefore, Lu Yushan was wondering if Lu Li was going to kill Lu and to frighten all the young masters of the Reaper God. As the upper echelons of the God of Death, Lu Yushan and many elders did not wish for this to happen. First of all, he didn't want Lu Li to shed tears and kill his son. Otherwise, the entire Lu family and the Grim Reaper would not be able to live in peace. Secondly, they didn't want Lu Li to be so ruthless. Which family didn't have one or two playboys? Which family didn't have some shady dealings? As the upper echelon of the God of Death, as the ruler, what was the point of becoming the upper echelon if he didn't have any special privileges? Many patriarchs hoped that Lu Li would not kill his son. Otherwise, it would not be fun for them. If Lu Li dared to kill his own son, then in the future, any young master that did something wrong would have to be executed. Otherwise, Lu Li's son would have died in vain. Since the rules were set, they could only follow them in the future. Lu Yushan secretly sent a message to Luan, telling him to be smart. Lu Li believed that Luan was investigating the situation. If Luan could admit his mistake and recant, for example, that he was not the main culprit, then Lu Yushan could go with the flow and spare Luan from death. Father. Luan's face revealed a trace of fear. His eyes were also filled with shock. His complexion turned pale, and he didn't dare to say another word. He became a yes man, looking like a coward. He was no longer as arrogant as before. Lu Yushan brought them back to the punishment hall and began to interrogate them personally. The women who had been harmed had also been found, as well as their clansmen. Also, they found some witnesses. Lu Yushan dared not to deceive them. Lu Li was in a fit of anger. The matter was actually very clear. Now it was just a matter of how to convict him. At this moment, the Winged Sovereign also sent a voice transmission over. His meaning was similar to what Lu Yushan had thought. They definitely had to convict him. In fact, they could even kill the other three young masters. However, Luan could not be sentenced to death. The Winged Sovereign gave Lu Yushan an order to think of a way to exonerate Luan Lu and could be spared from the death penalty, but he did not mind being punished. He just wanted to keep his life first. At this point, this matter became very interesting. It was like a father trying to kill his son, but others were trying their best to help the son get out of the crime. Lu Li had nothing to say and could not find any reason. This was an arduous task. Lu Yushan felt a headache coming on. He thought about it and sent a voice transmission to a hall master under him. He asked him to secretly explain to Lu En and teach him how to clear his guilt. As long as she wasn't the main culprit and was abducted, there was still room for manipulation. In addition, he had to instruct the other three young masters to make one of them the main culprit and the other young masters to be the accomplices. Then, everyone would have a unified statement, and only the main culprit would be killed. This would be risky, because Luli was likely to be investigating the situation here. It would be easy for him to be exposed. It might be an arduous and fruitless task. By then, Lu Yushan might be removed from the position of patriarch by a furious Lu Li. Let's do it. Even if I am removed from the position of patriarch, I cannot sentence Lu into death. Lu Yushan made up his mind after weighing the pros and cons. If Luan was sentenced to death, then the Lu family would hate him. Lu Yushan would lose his position on Lu Li's side. On top of that, he would offend other young masters. By then, he wouldn't be able to survive in the Grim Reaper. Exonerating himself might offend Lu Li, but he was trying to save Lu Li's son. Even if he was removed from the position, he could come back when Lu Li was appeased. Hall masters began to send messages to Gu Shi, the young master of the Gu family, to be the main culprit. There was no other way. Gu Chi was the last to be promoted, and he had the weakest foundation in the Grim Reaper. Also, this young master of the Gu family was not valued in the family. Gu Chi wouldn't mind. This young master of the Gu family, Gu Shi, was silly. One of the hall masters asked him to cooperate. He said that he could find a way to keep Gu Shi alive and that he would be locked up for 10,000 years. When Lu Li was appeased, they would find a way to get him out. Another hall master sent a message to the witnesses, asking them to cooperate. Lu Yushan sat on the throne and began his trial with a straight face. He interrogated them one by one until he got to the bottom of the matter. Luan and the other three were having fun at the Heavenly King City. They ran into a group of young ladies. Some of the young ladies were pretty, which aroused the lust of the young master of the Gu family. Therefore, he stopped a group of young ladies and tried to make friends with them. Those young ladies were from small families. Since they were young masters of major families, they didn't dare to offend them. Therefore, they went to a tavern. As soon as they arrived, the four young masters showed their true colors. They began to flirt with the young ladies and even molest them. Those young ladies were from decent families, pure and clean. They could not accept the education they had received since they were young. Some of them began to fight back. The young master of the Gu family was enraged. He killed 2 young ladies in person and captured the others. Then, the 4 young masters began to act like beasts. Some of the young ladies tried to fight back, but some were tortured to death by the beastly young masters. When the families of those young ladies found out about this, the young masters of the 2 families were furious and came to rescue them. They were all killed by the guards brought by the young master of the Gu family. Then, they heard that the 2 families were dissatisfied and wanted to complain to Tianhua City. The young master of the Gu family led people over to silence them. That was pretty much what happened. But according to the testimony, most of the blame had to be borne by the young master of the Gu family. He was the one who was lustful. He was the one who invited the young ladies back. He was also the one who killed them. He was also the one who wiped out the 2 families. Luan and the other 2 young masters were just accomplices. They were just helping the evildoer. This kind of situation was very common among the young masters of the Grim Reaper. Not just the Grim Reaper, many young masters of the major families had such bad habits. Those young ladies' families, including the young ladies who survived, and the witnesses didn't dare to speak recklessly. They weren't stupid. Although the disciplinary hall made a move, they were all descendants of major families. It was obvious that they were just putting on an act. If they spoke recklessly, they would end up like the 2 families that were wiped out. All right, Lu Yushan made up his mind. He made up his mind and said, "After my detailed investigation, the matter is basically clear. Now, I pronounce that Gu Shi and the other 3 have violated the law. Their crimes cannot be pardoned. Gu Shi is sentenced to death. As for the other 3, buzzing, right at that moment, the space in the disciplinary hall trembled. Then Lu Li suddenly showed up. He looked at Lu Yushan coldly and said, "Patriarch Lu, is it because Luan and the other 3 are not the masterminds and they are first-time offenders? So, they can be spared from death but not punishment? Lu Yushan, this is a good arrangement. You have done it well. You must have done it before. Sect Master 3. Chapter 36:15. Lu Li's sudden appearance and his tone was so stern that Lu Yushan and several hall masters were frightened. Lu Yushan came down with several hall masters. Lu Yushan didn't say anything. He knelt to Lu Li, lowered his head, and begged. Luan and the other three were taken aback when they saw Lu Li. Luan, in particular, was trembling like a mouse in front of a cat. Gu Shi and the others were frightened as well. Lu Li's reputation was not built in a day or two, nor was it based on boasting. He had earned it through battles. Lu Li was the boss of the Grim Reaper. Even their family patriarch had to be careful when he saw Lu Li, not to mention foppish young masters like them. Therefore, the four of them dropped to their knees and prostrated themselves, not daring to breathe loudly. The young ladies and the witnesses all dropped to their knees. This was the boss of the Grim Reaper, a big shot in the sky, a legendary warrior. Who dared to disrespect him? This matter had already alarmed many people. As soon as Lu Li came out, many people in the city checked with psychic power. They were being careful and sneaky. They didn't dare to do it at will for fear of angering Lu Li. Lu Li didn't say anything. He just stared at them coldly. The Hall of Punishments was dead silent. The atmosphere was suffocating. Luan and the other three young masters were sweating. Lu Li didn't release his chi and energy, but his aura was strong. Even though he was just standing there, he was pressuring them. Their hearts were beating faster. The young ladies and the martial artists of the various families, as well as the witnesses, were all scared out of their wits. Many of them were shivering. Lu Li said nothing for the time for one incense stick to burn. It was a short time, but everyone here felt it had been 10 years. Lu Li moved slowly and sat down behind the desk. He looked at the young ladies and said calmly, "Stand up, all of you. You are the victims and the witnesses. Stand up. You have done nothing wrong. They're the ones who have done wrong. Don't be afraid. I am here today to punish the evil and to avenge you." "Thank you, Emperor Lu." The young ladies, the warriors of the families, and the witnesses all stood up, but none of them dared to look at Lu Li. They lowered their heads and stood on the side, still nervous. The young ladies were still trembling. Lu Li did not ask the others to stand up. Lu Yushan and the others had to keep kneeling. Luan and the others were afraid to look up. Lu Li exhaled and tried to put on a gentle face. He looked at the young ladies and said, "Is what they said true? Don't be afraid. Speak up boldly. I will help you today." The young ladies looked at each other, not daring to say anything. An old man from family sent a message to the young ladies. Lu Li glared at him and said with killing intent, "What? You dare to use telepathy in front of me? Are you trying to teach them how to fool me? Do you really think I have a good temper?" As soon as Lu Li said this, the patriarch of a small family knelt at once and apologized. No, I'm just telling them to speak up and to listen to Emperor Lu." One of the young ladies stuck out her chest, bit her lips, and bowed to Lu Li. "Thank you, Emperor Lu, for helping us. What I said is the truth. That is what happened. You are lying." Lu Li interrupted her and continued gently. "A person's eyes can't lie, and you're not good at lying. Don't be afraid. Speak up. Nobody can hurt you, and nobody will dare to hurt your family in the future. I swear on my reputation." It might be because of Lu Li's attitude and tone that the young lady plucked up her courage. Or it might be because she was filled with grief and indignation. She took a deep breath, dropped to her knees, and said, "Emperor Lu, they are lying. They colluded and even threatened us to do so. Gu Shi is not the mastermind. The four of them are in cahoots. None of them are good people. The four of them have taken actions and tortured us for days and nights. Mir and the other four were killed and tortured to death. The Mir family was destroyed by the four of them. They are demons. Emperor Lu, please help us. Emperor Lu, please help us." The other young ladies dropped to their knees in tears as well. They kowtowed to Lu Li, making noises on the ground. Their foreheads were turning blue. Lu Li seemed to have expected this. He looked at Luan with disappointment and pain. He sighed, stood up, and walked to the young ladies. He helped them up and said with a straight face, "Don't kowtow to me. It is my fault for not teaching my son well. As a leader of the Grim Reaper, it is my fault for not managing well. I have let you suffer so much and let so many innocent people die tragically. This is all my fault and the fault of all the leaders of the Grim Reaper. Take a seat first. I will give you an explanation for this matter." The young ladies stopped sobbing. They looked at Lu Li in a daze. Somehow, at this moment, they believed in Lu Li. Maybe he could give them an explanation and punish all the villains. Lu Li walked over slowly to Lu Yushan and the others and said, "Lu Yushan, do you have anything else to say?" Lu Yushan sighed. He bowed and said, "I am guilty. I have nothing to say. I will accept any punishment from you, Emperor Lu." "Then all of you get lost." Lu Li waved his hand and said coldly, "Dismiss all your duties at the Hall of Punishments. Go to the Valley of Condemnation and serve for 1,000 years." What? The entire city was stirred up. How cruel was Lu Li? Lu Yushan had exonerated his son, and he only wanted a light sentence. It was one thing for Lu Li to dismiss them. How could he imprison them for 1,000 years? "Yes. Thank you, Emperor Lu." Lu Yushan didn't explain anything. He bowed, then stood up and walked out. Those hall masters naturally didn't dare to say anything and obediently followed Lu Yushan away. Nobody was in charge of the Hall of Punishments anymore. Lu Li had become the chief of the Hall of Punishments. Lu Li stopped looking at Lu Yushan and the others. He walked over to Lu En and the others and stood in front of them. The four of them were on their knees, not daring to look up. They could only look at Lu Li's feet and feel the coldness from Lu Li. Lu Li stood in front of them without saying a word again. The four of them began to tremble. Their hands were trembling, but none of them dared to look up at Lu Li. They did not even dare to breathe. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, Lu Li said coldly, "What about you four? Do you have anything to say? If not, then you will plead guilty. Today, I will sentence you on behalf of the Hall of Punishments." What could the four of them say? They didn't even have the courage to look up at Lu Li. Gu Qi was the most spineless. Just now, Lu Yushan had sentenced him to death. The Hall of Punishments said that they would help him later. But now, Lu Yushan and the others were banished. Who could save him? Gu Qi kowtowed and said, "Emperor Lu, we know we are wrong. We know we are wrong. Please be magnanimous and spare our lives. We will mend our ways. We promise that we will never do it again." The young masters of the Li family and the Yu family kowtowed as well. Only Lu En did not move. He remained on his knees. Nobody could tell what was on his mind. Lu Li ignored their pleas. He said coldly, "Since you have nothing to say, then I will convict you. You four are unforgivable. You will be sentenced to death. Immediately." Master 3, that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.